What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 2mm Chapter 26, CP Spy, Traces of the Valley of the Gods, please give me some flowers and votes. Advertisement because of that guy. Golden Lion's brow was slightly frowned, which was not easy to notice. The captain sitting on the throne, and the man lying down at the captain's feet with his head covered in blood. Marine has long known about Roger's contact with us. Golden Lion said in a deep voice. From the atmosphere of the hall, he guessed that something was unusual. According to the past, many cadres usually gathered here. But today, there are only the core crew members and only one intern, Kaido, who Big Mom likes and has unlimited potential. Looking at these guys again, they laughed at the failure of the mission as soon as they came back. He must have already known something. You are right, as the world's #1 pirate group, it is normal for them to be infiltrated by the world government. Rock's face with thick dark circles raised a wild smile, but Laozi is really unhappy. After finishing speaking, he sat on the throne and leaned forward, grabbed the fallen man with his fingers, and lifted him up. Tell my crew, who are you? Rox grinned. The tone was casual, but the man who was in a daze was shocked all over and his eyes widened in fear. I am the CP0 spy of the world government, hiding next to Rox, looking for opportunities to destroy this pirate group from within. Why? Rox asked calmly. Because your pirate group poses a major threat to the world government. Clear. Rox laughed. As soon as he finished speaking, he exerted force with his 5 fingers, and with a click, he broke the CP spy's neck. It landed with a thud and made a dull sound. Everyone heard it. The world government is afraid of our existence. Rox stood up, looked at the world with his eyes, showed a wild smile, and said, So, our next goal is to destroy the world government and become the true king of this world. As his words fell, Golden Lion Shiki hasn't reacted yet. John, Silver Axe and others were already cheering loudly. Even Charlotte Linlin and Kaido broke out with cold smiles. But, Rox slowly raised his hand, and after everyone calmed down, he grinned and said, Before this guy had a navigation chart with him, and the marked location was a place we had never been to. Yes, we have sent our men to find out about the navigation coordinates, but there is no way they can get closer than 100 nautical miles. Advertisement Silver Axe said at this time. The currents there make it inaccessible to ships. The weather in the sky, the lightning and thunder, make it completely impossible to enter. Ochaku spoke calmly, raised a wine glass and drank it, and then continued, But the location marked on the navigation chart is deep in the sea, not far from the G2 base of naval headquarters. So, this is a trap? John, wearing 16th century European captain's clothing, asked curiously. You know, world government spies may lure them into a well-hidden location, thereby exposing themselves. Anyway, the spy had already foreseen his own death. Shiki, this requires you to make another trip to collect information on that sea area. If it is false, forget it. Rox raised his eyes, stared at the Golden Lion coldly, and said, If it is true, find out what is there. At this point, he paused for a moment. Then, he grinned and said, Maybe there are treasures hidden by the world government there. When it comes to the treasure, everyone's emotions are very high. Where's Newgate? After discussing for a long time, Rox asked Golden Lion to take a good rest before setting off, and then asked Whitebeard. That guy is out drinking, Golden Lion said with a displeased face. Ha ha ha, this guy is still so arrogant. Rox was not angry about this, but laughed loudly and went out carrying the 2 barrels of wine next to the throne. Seeing the captain leaving the lobby in the background, the crew members all sneered. The captain was too kind to Newgate. This guy is out of touch and should have sunk to the bottom of the sea long ago. Kaido said with disdain as he turned into lemon essence. Well, that guy is just a freak. In response, Charlotte Linlin sneered. Apart from looking for a son, he won't take my mother's charm seriously. Haha, if you have any objections, you can talk to Newgate in person. John laughed. Then the lobby fell silent. Talk to that freak? Forget it, might as well live well. After about 10 days of sailing, after passing through the Red Line, the 4 warships returned neatly to the Marineford dock. Hiss. What is that? Damn it, it's Pluton Rayleigh, the vice captain of the legendary pirates. It's true or false, what the newspaper said is true. As expected of Vice Admiral, he entered the New World for the first time and has such a brilliant record. Advertisement, that's Garp the Fist's brother after all. It is said that after Lu Chen Vice Admiral returns, the Marshal has prepared to let Lu Chen Vice Admiral guard the New World base. G1 base? That's the base closest to the Holy Land, and it's known as an important gateway to the Red Line. Who knows, but stationed at the base for sure, it will definitely be the most wonderful experience if you can follow Lu Chen Vice Admiral. The Marine soldiers on the dock were talking about this. Everyone was shocked when they saw Pluton Rayleigh and others coming off the warship wearing seastone shackles. Prison is the best place for you. Before leaving, Lu Chen said to Rayleigh and others. No, pirates belong to freedom. Even though he was a prisoner, Rayleigh still retorted confidently. It's a pity that your freedom lies in prison. Lu Chen had no expression on his face and spoke coldly, declaring their future destination. In fact, this is indeed the case. Only pirates with great influence, such as Roger, whose influence the world government desperately wants to eliminate, will be publicly executed. Most pirates, even if they commit heinous crimes, will be tried by the law, and their final destination is to spend their lives in prison. I watched Rayleigh and others leave on another warship, heading towards Impel Down. Let's go back and return. After the warship disappeared at the end, Chen turned around and left. Next to him were Brother Garp, who was frowning and thinking hard, as well as Sengoku, Vice Admiral and others. Admiral Office. You have done a great job, especially Chen. You achieved a major victory in your first military mission. The Marshal and the Holy Land will give you separate awards. With a smile on his face, Kong looked at the 4 people in front of him with satisfaction. His eyes finally fell on Chen and said, also, as the 4 pillars of the new generation of Marine, you should find a time to give a speech at the Marine Academy. Marine Academy? Also known as Marine's Cradle of Strength. It can be said that both Garp, Sengoku and Zephyr all graduated from Marine Academy. That's why Chen is the most special. Yes, Mr. Kong. Chen nodded in response. Well, when the commendation comes, I think you will be sent out to rule the branch. Which branch base do you want to be stationed at? Sora Admiral crossed his arms and asked solemnly. Hear the words. Even Garp and the others beside him raised their heads to look over. Chapter 27. Break the soil and become a marquis. Transfer to the branch, please give me flowers and votes. Advertisement branch base. That is the military base organization under naval headquarters. In the words of Chen in his previous life, it was equivalent to the treatment of a vassal, and the station vice admiral was the highest ruler. Have your own independent fleet, soldiers and generals. Especially in bases starting with G, every general stationed there is at the vice admiral level. It can be said that this is the backbone of naval headquarters to deter the sea. And Brother Garp's garrison base is the G3 branch. Among Marine, it is the base second only to G1. Sengoku, Zephyr and others voluntarily stayed at naval headquarters. Of course, they had already been stationed before. For vice admirals who want to be promoted and have been stationed in the branch, if they are strong enough, they will have the opportunity to be promoted to the position of admiral in the future. Now for Marine Supernova Chen. Whether it is Marshal Marine or the Holy Land World Government, they are very willing to let him station a branch. After a few years, he will be transferred back to the headquarters. When his qualifications and strength are sufficient, he can be directly promoted to admiral. So, as a mouthpiece for the Marshal and the Holy Land, Kong Admiral would naturally ask Chen about his wishes in advance. Whether it is staying at the headquarters or stationed at the branch, it is a promotion path, it all depends on how Chen chooses. Chen, you have to think clearly, stationing at the branch is a long-term job. Sengoku reminded from the side. The branch you choose to stay in will be a long-term stay in the next few years, or more than 10 years. You can only leave the branch stationed there unless you are on vacation or on military missions. This is also the reason why Garp rarely returns to his hometown for so many years. That's right, Chen, you are still young, so you don't have to take risks. Even Zephyr couldn't help but give a few reminders. Even if the Holy Land lets out the news in advance and wants Chen to be stationed at the G2 branch, if he chooses to refuse, the headquarters and world government will not be able to force him. So, when you choose a branch with vacancies, you have many options. However, the first half of the Grand Line and the New World branch are not at the same level of risk. That's why Zephyr, the reminder. But, Mr. Kong, everything is at the command of the Marshal. In this regard, Chen said it didn't matter. In his mind, no matter which branch he is stationed in, it is only temporary. He has a greater goal, ha ha ha, Chen, I'm optimistic about you. Kong Admiral had a smile on his face. He didn't expect Chen to be so easy to negotiate, so he couldn't help but make a promise. Let's do this. When you are transferred to the branch, and the headquarters approves, we will find someone to assist you. You know, Chen has only been in Marine for 3 years. At this time, he was transferred to the branch to garrison. He alone might not be familiar with its operations. Therefore, Admiral's promise is to find someone to help Chen get acquainted with him. Advertisement. Once you are familiar with it, you will naturally not need help from others. Find someone. Chen felt dizzy after hearing Kong Admiral's words. A sideways glance revealed that the familiar guys in the entire office were Sengoku and Zephyr. Brother Garp has his own branch to guard, so naturally he can't stay by his side for a long time. That only leaves. Mr. Kong, let me go. Before Chen could speak, Vice Admiral he took a step forward and puffed out his chest in response. As she spoke, she raised her eyebrows, glanced at Chen, and said with a smile, Chen, you won't welcome me, right? Sister you still understand me. In response, Chen smiled all over his face. To be honest, as one of Marine's staff members, Sister E's abilities go beyond superficial combat capabilities. And her understanding of Marine's operations is second only to Sengoku. With her by his side, Chen said he could be a hands-off shopkeeper at any time. Haha, let's arrange it like this. Sora Admiral exhaled heavily as if he had completed his mission. Then, he told Chen that after taking a good rest, he would go to Marine College to give a lecture. This is a tradition at naval headquarters. Every Vice Admiral, after successfully performing a major military mission, must go to the Marine Academy to give a summary speech. To put it bluntly, it is to motivate the students inside. After all, that is Marine's future. Yes, then let's go there tomorrow. Chen nodded and left for a while, wanting to see how his nephew was doing there. After leaving Admiral's office, he looked around and found that Brother Garp had disappeared after he came out. Before Garp left, he kept mumbling about opening the door. Behind him, Crane Vice Admiral smiled slightly. Being in his 30s, Suru didn't leave many traces on him. In addition to the more mature charm and temperament, the whole person is full of intelligence and stability, very much like a big sister. Open the door. Chen's forehead is covered with black lines. If he had known better, he wouldn't have taught 8 inner gates to Garp so quickly. He also thought about going to Marine Academy together so that his nephew and elder brother could meet and the father and son could exchange feelings. Now it seems there is no need to think about it. Sister please accompany me to Marine Academy tomorrow. Chen raised his eyes and winked at Suru. Compared with Garp's rugged appearance, Chen looks handsome, and his appearance alone is enough to make anyone of the opposite S*X feel excited. What's more, he also possesses the top power of Vice Admiral. No, go yourself. However, Suru looked at Chen with a smile, shook his head and refused. I still have a lot of things to deal with. After all, your transfer to the branch should not be far away, and I still need to hand over the work of the headquarters. Advertisement Chen. Well, he had no choice but to give up and find someone else to accompany him. The capital of 7 waters. The Whitebeard Pirates returned from the New World and robbed a pirate ship. This pirate group with only 7 or 8 people left has never been disappointed. The vice-captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, Pluton Rayleigh, and the rest of the crew will be imprisoned and impelled down. Upon hearing the news, the entire crew, including Jabba, despaired. Where is impelled down? Known as the world's first prison, it is a deep-sea prison built on the bottom of the sea. It is known as the strongest prison with copper walls and iron walls. Prisoners who enter will basically lose their freedom for the rest of their lives. The Whitebeard Pirates returned to the first half of the Grand Line from the New World just to look for opportunities to rescue Rayleigh and others. Unexpectedly, Jabba frowned and sweat broke out on his forehead. Can they really enter that kind of ghost place from the outside world? I am afraid that even the door of justice cannot be crossed. How can we talk about saving our companions? Ha ha ha, Jabba, what's your expression? Have you given up? Roger raised his hand and patted Jabba's shoulder and couldn't help laughing at their expressions. Captain, is there anything we can do? Jabba asked. Not yet, Jabba and crew, but I believe there will be a way sooner or later. As long as we are still in the sea, there will be a way. Roger has an inexplicable confidence in his future. This confident mood also infected the other crew members, and the frustration was slightly diluted. Come on, if you want to continue sailing, we must build our new ship. Roger walked ashore carelessly and headed straight for the shipyard. Captain, do we have any money? Behind him, the crew members followed one after another, all of them looking curious. Haha, you can know it first. After hearing Roger's words, Jabba and others' expressions changed drastically. I don't know why, but I always have a bad feeling. But the result shocked everyone. Brother Tom, it's up to you. When we go to sea, we will definitely find the money to pay you back. Before leaving the shipyard, Roger happily thanked a fishman. This scene left Jabba and the crew stunned. Damn it, is this okay for the captain? Chapter 28. Future Marine Admiral fans, please vote for flowers. Advertisement Marine College is built in the jungle behind Marineford. The college is surrounded by mountains and rivers, and the seagull flag representing peace hangs high. Today, students from all the colleges were forced to shout and wait quietly in the vast square. Everyone, please be quiet. The Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters will give a speech to all students later. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you. An officer stepped onto the high platform and reminded the thousands of students in the school. As soon as these words came out, the noisy voice suddenly became quiet. Immediately afterwards, bursts of cheers erupted in the square. Oh my god, the person who came to the academy this time is actually the Vice Admiral of Heavenly Punishment. Who is that? The superstar of Naval Headquarters, only 21 years old, is already holding the position of Vice Admiral of Naval Headquarters. Holy shit, is it true? Didn't you read the news last time? Do you know how long it took Vice Admiral from entering Marine to being promoted to Vice Admiral? I don't know, but he is 21 years old. Did he join Marine when he was 16? It took 5 years to make the jump to Vice Admiral. Is it true or not? I don't really believe it. No, it's 3 years. The young and vigorous boys and girls started talking a lot. After hearing the legendary deeds of Vice Admiral, everyone's eyes were filled with the light of admiration, shining brightly. Doesn't that mean he's already stronger than that guy Garp? The dragon in a dark green cloak stood among them, listening to the various discussions in his ears, with a hint of excitement on his face. As long as he is stronger than his father, he will be happy. At least, that guy in the monkey family is not the most powerful. It's really scary. I'm only in my 20s and I'm already on par with Vice Admiral Garp. Next to him, a lewd voice sounded. Long turned around and saw a wretched young man with curly black hair standing not far from him. He looked very much in need of a beating. Little brother, no matter it's Vice Admiral Garp or Vice Admiral, we are all brothers. Sensing Long's gaze, the wretched boy curled his lips and explained. I have to admit that Vice Admiral's attack on the pirates is a better interpretation of the word justice. Next to him, a young man wearing a hat and a resolute face spoke in a deep voice. Compared with him, Vice Admiral Garp's methods are too merciful. Feeling the puzzled looks from the dragon and the wretched boy, he opened his mouth to explain again. Hearing this, Long Zui's eyes narrowed slightly and he was noncommittal. The wretched boy just smiled, and then put his pants in his pockets with a lazy expression. At this time, advertisement the square where thousands of students gathered suddenly erupted in exclamations of surprise. Look, what is that? Someone pointed to the sky and exclaimed. I saw wisps of blue arcs suddenly appearing in the cloudless sky. Sizzling, the sound of electric current came, and the blue arc of electricity, as if given life and consciousness, followed the void and reached the high platform at the end of the square. Wisps of arcs intertwined and finally formed a figure, which gradually condensed and took shape in front of everyone's eyes. Wearing a marine cloak and a cape on her shoulders, they were fluttering in the breeze. He looks very young, only about 20 years old, with a plump and handsome face, long black hair falling like a waterfall, and an unworldly and refined temperament. But for some reason, the moment he appeared, thousands of people in the square fell silent unconsciously. Only a pair of wide eyes were left looking over, the light of worship and awe flows. Lu Chen, Vice Admiral. The officers waiting on the high platform quickly saluted Lu Chen. In response, Lu Chen nodded and immediately walked to the middle, scanning the people in the square below. Passing over the bodies of boys and girls, in the end, it settled on the dragon a little bit. I found that my nephew, whom I hadn't seen for a while, seemed to have matured a lot, and his brows were full of confidence and arrogance. Etc. Are those two guys next to my nephew the future Marine Admirals? Lu Chen's heart moved and he looked carefully. That wretched face is simply the version of Kizaru when he was young. Even though Akainu is a young boy, his face is very resolute, full of the toughness and calmness that an iron-blooded soldier should have. Oh, it's so scary. Vice Admiral has been looking at me for a long time. Feeling Lu Chen's gaze, Perusalino felt uneasy and lowered his head, not daring to look at her. However, it is difficult for people to ignore his wretched appearance. Sakazuki, on the other hand, instead of lowering his head, looked straight back, his eyes shining with blazing light. When I grow up, I will be like Vice Admiral, and become a man who stands upright. He clenched his fists and swore to himself in a low voice. Can it really be done? Perusalino expressed doubt. However, this does not prevent him from having an inexplicable fanaticism about the Vice Admiral. In 3 years, he jumped from the junior level of Marine to Marine Vice Admiral. This legendary experience is simply shocking, not to mention. Not long ago, half of the legendary pirate Roger Pirates crew was captured. All kinds of glorious achievements are looked up to by many young men and women present here. Advertisement, dear students, I am Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral, Monkey D. Lu Chen. At this time, Lu Chen spoke slowly, and his voice turned into a wave, spreading out and reaching everyone's ears. His concise self-introduction immediately made thousands of students blush with excitement. Before telling the strange stories about the sea, I would like to ask everyone what justice is. As Lu Chen's words fell, the thousands of students who had been so excited just now calmed down immediately and fell into thinking. The entire huge square suddenly fell into deathly silence. Justice means killing all the pirates. At this time, Sakazuki, who was wearing a hat, suddenly raised his head and shouted loudly. Lu Chen turned around and nodded without denying. Yes, are there any more? He glanced at everyone and continued to ask. Justice is perfect execution of tasks, Perusalino said. Lu Chen's mouth twitched. You are such a fishy admiral, how dare you say that you performed the task perfectly? However, he still nodded and did not deny it. Any more? Seeing that someone answered, other students responded one after another. Justice is defeating the bad guys, kill all the pirates. Catch more pirates. Protect civilians. Thousands of people crowded around and spoke, saying the same thing. Gradually, the noise began to quiet down, because what everyone said seemed to make no difference, but Lu Chen Vice Admiral on the high platform all nodded in affirmation. As a result, everyone stopped talking and waited for the final definition of Lu Chen Vice Admiral. But at this moment, a wild voice sounded. Justice is to overthrow corruption and rebuild a peaceful world. The boy with the blood-red square tattoo on his cheek grinned and shouted. The words fell. Everyone in the square became quiet and turned their heads to look over. You are all right. Lu Chen glanced over briefly, then spoke immediately, drawing everyone's attention back to himself. These are all justice. Chapter 29. My heart is justice, please give me tickets for flowers. Advertisement. No matter what kind of justice it is actually done according to one's heart. So what is absolute justice and lazy justice? They are all defined by others. Having seen darkness in this world, everyone will have a different understanding of the justice they believe in. And that's what Lu Chen wants to say. No matter what kind of justice you believe in, don't forget that the core of justice is peace and order. The difference between us and pirates is that we don't bully the weak, we don't destroy the world, we don't kill innocent people, and we don't collude with the darkness. Justice is Marine's belief, and Marine is also the embodiment of justice. And this is what I want to tell you. Lu Chen spoke calmly and announced the end of his speech. As the words fell, thousands of boys and girls in the square, as well as the officers from the academy, applauded vigorously. Although some words are commonplace, but when a strong person speaks out, the weight in people's hearts is completely different. Next, Lu Chen told some interesting anecdotes about the sea, and then ended the speech with the topic of pirates. Now that you have become a pirate, you are on the opposite side of justice. No matter who he is, he will be severely punished. After finishing speaking, under the cheers of countless students, Lu Chen made a stab and disappeared from the spot. He came and went without a trace. Is this a strong man? I will definitely become a man like Lu Chen Vice Admiral. Sakazuki's eyes widened and he looked excited. It's so scary. I can't even see how I left. Perusalino was palpitating. I won't give up so quickly. I will definitely catch up, at least to catch up with that guy Garp. Long hesitated for a while, and finally lowered his target. He didn't know why, but he always felt that his uncle was more powerful than his father. After all, Uncle is still very young now. Long, someone is looking for you at the gate of the academy. At this time, an officer from the academy came closer, looked at Long with envy and shouted. Someone is looking for me. Long was stunned for a moment and reacted immediately. When he followed the officer to the entrance of the college, he saw a tall figure standing there. At this time, sensing the arrival of the two men, Chen slowly turned around with a warm smile on his face. How are you, Xiao Long? Are you still used to Marine Academy? He put his pants in his pockets and his eyes fell on the little guy. Advertisement, Uncle, why did you come to me? Long looked curious, frowned and said, generally speaking, there are few in the academy who are my rivals. Having said this, he raised his tattooed cheek and felt very proud. But I have to admit that there are still guys in Marine Academy who can fight with him. For example, the two students standing next to me just now were both very capable. The officer standing far away couldn't help but his eyes popped out when he heard Long's words. Uncle, unexpectedly, this student was actually the nephew of Vice Admiral. Etc. Heaven's punishment, Vice Admiral's nephew, isn't he Vice Admiral Garp's son? When he thought of this, the officer's jaw almost dropped to the ground in shock, and his whole body was almost petrified. Haha, it seems you are not arrogant and arrogant. Hearing his nephew admit that he had an opponent, Chen nodded and said with a smile. I came to you to tell you that I may have to be transferred to the branch base to garrison. I will rarely come back for a long time. Headquarters. What? Are you leaving too? Long was shocked, and then his expression became lost. Chen smiled, raised his hand and rubbed his upturned black hair, and warned, work hard towards your dreams. After saying that, without waiting for Long's response, he turned around and left. All the children in the monkey family came here like this. Even the future pirate king Luffy didn't have the company of his parents and eventually embarked on the path of being a pirate. Uncle. But at this moment, Long clenched his fists and shouted. Ahead. Chen paused slightly. What is your justice? Long was very curious and couldn't help asking. My justice? Chen didn't look back, but it was obvious that he was thinking about something. But soon, he took another step. The faint words were passed lightly to Long's ears. My heart is justice. Long frowned, and when he raised his head again to look for Chen, he found that he had disappeared. Marineford. After finishing his lecture at Marine College, Chen returned to the Naval Headquarters building. Advertisement at this time, the administrative order for transfer was issued faster than expected. As soon as he entered the office, a communications soldier came from the back and called him to go to the conference room to convene. When arriving at the conference room, in addition to Sora Admiral, Crane Vice Admiral is also there. The expressions of the two of them were not very good. I think you are surprised by this transfer. To be honest, I am also surprised. After Chen sat down, Admiral's first words made him slightly startled and confused in his heart. The administrative order for transfer has been issued. Crane Vice Admiral added next to him, moreover, the Holy Land also gave me a mission. Task. Chen frowned slightly, it always feels like something is wrong there. Yes, it's an escort mission. Since it's on the way to the G2 branch you were transferred to, I sent it along with it. Sora Admiral spoke in a deep voice. To be honest, he had just heard the news and felt embarrassed. But the orders of the Holy Land must always be carried out. The only option was to bite the bullet and summon Chen over. Tell me, what is the mission? When does it start? Chen lit a cigarette and took some time to ask. Anyway, all that needs to be done and said is done. It makes no difference to him when he is transferred to the departure branch. Escort the Celestial Dragon's mission. Crane Vice Admiral spoke in a deep voice, a look of solemnity flashed in his beautiful eyes. Mainly, as a Marine Vice Admiral, I don't like Celestial Dragons. That's a really troublesome task, Chen sneered, and then said solemnly, although I don't like Celestial Dragons very much, if the mission is like this, there seems to be no way to refuse. Hearing this, Sora Admiral breathed a sigh of relief. However, Chen's next words made the two people present smile bitterly. However, let me declare in advance that if the other party messes around during the escort, don't blame me. The tone is very casual, as if reporting an insignificant matter. But both Sora Admiral and Suru knew that Chen was not joking and could definitely do it. Chapter 30. Conquerors shock Celestial Dragons, please give me some flowers. Advertisement 7 days later. 3 marine warships quietly left the dock, passed the suspension bridge, successfully entered the Red Line, and waited in the canal outside Marijoy. After a while, as 5 or 6 luxurious ocean-going cruise ships joined the team, the fleet officially set off. At this time, Naval Headquarters, Marineford. Ha ha ha, brother, you must have never imagined. Laozi has opened the 6th gate, ha ha ha. Garp's arrogant laughter spread throughout the building. Wherever it went, it aroused doubts and confusion among countless people. Stop yelling at the august Naval Headquarters. In the end, Sengoku couldn't help but scold this guy. Hey, Sengoku, from now on, the gap between you and me is only this little. Garp didn't care at all about Sengoku's scolding. Instead, he raised his right hand and spread his thumb and index finger as wide as possible to express the gap between the two. Sengoku had a dark look on his face. Lately, everyone often hears you shouting to open the door. What is that? At this time, Zephyr, who had short purple hair, smiled elegantly and asked curiously. Hear this. The empty admirals behind the desk put down the documents in their hands and looked over. Ha 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 ha. Sensing everyone's curious gazes, Garp laughed even louder, with a stern look on his face that made those watching want to beat him up. Just when everyone had almost reached the limit of their patience, he waved his hands carelessly, looking like he didn't deserve a beating. I won't tell you. Sengoku almost exploded when he heard this. Even with such a good temper, Zephyr couldn't help but have veins bulging on his forehead. If Admiral hadn't resisted the urge to beat him violently, he might have started a fight in the office. Leave the Admiral office. Garp's excitement calmed down, and then he remembered that he hadn't visited his son for a long time. Well, I haven't had time to pay attention to him before. Before the vacation is over, I might as well go and see how the little guy is doing. This 8 inner gates is a forbidden technique in desperate situations. Well, as a father, I don't have any manners, so teach him this forbidden physical technique. Anyway, Long has always been taught by Chen, so there is no big problem. Thinking of this, Garp couldn't help but his eyes lit up. Of course. Advertisement. Although he has thick nerves, he is not crazy. 8 inner gates is a taboo physical technique that burns vitality at every turn. Therefore, in order to prevent the little guy from losing control, it is naturally impossible to teach everything. Well, just teach him the theory of the 6th gate. When he is strong enough, let him find Chen on his own. While thinking happily in his heart, Garp walked happily towards Marine Academy. And on the other side, the Marine fleet has just left the Red Line and entered the waters of the New World. Chen didn't know what naval headquarters Garp was going to do. Even if he knew, he wouldn't stop it even if he thought about it. After all, this forbidden technique can be used in desperate situations to increase the chance of survival. On top of a warship at the front of the fleet, Chen glanced back at the luxurious ocean cruise ship and already had a preliminary understanding of the life of the celestial dragons. Such a swaggering escort won't attract too much attention, right? A beach chair was set up on the deck, and he lay down comfortably, facing the bright sunshine, slowly closing his eyes and enjoying the rare tranquility. Used to it, in response, Vice Admiral he crossed his arms with a slightly cold expression. Before setting off, I thought this escort mission was just to escort a certain celestial dragons in the Holy Land. But now, looking at the 6 huge cruise ships that were as huge as castles, Vice Admiral He's white forehead was covered with black lines, and his eyes showed a solemn look. This must be a certain celestial dragon's family all setting off. Haha, is Sister He angry too? Lying on the beach chair, Chen glanced sideways and couldn't help but joke. Nonsense, I'm just too stressed. After Chen saw through his thoughts, Vice Admiral He's face turned slightly red and he couldn't help but tilt his head and puff up his cheeks. The Marine Vice Admiral is rarely emotional, but today, I was really annoyed by celestial dragons. After all, the previous mission was just to escort. Unexpectedly, it was to escort a family. Along with the belongings of the slaves and celestial dragons, it was as grand as a move, no, a semi-relocation of a royal family. Chen doesn't care about this, as long as it doesn't bother him. But fate seemed to be playing a joke on him. The idea just came up. On the cruise ship that looked like a castle behind it, several gunshots were suddenly heard. A few bangs. On the quiet and vast sea, it seems particularly harsh. What happened? Advertisement Crane Vice Admiral's face changed slightly, and he suddenly turned his head to look over. The generals on the other 2 warships also immediately issued a warning. The triangular marine warships began to shrink the distance and directly surrounded the 6 castle-like cruise ships. Whoosh whoosh, Vice Admiral He gave an order and took the lead. He led several generals to leap from the warship one after another, walked across a distance of tens of meters on the moonwalk, and landed on the deck of the Celestial Dragon's cruise ship. However, the moment they landed, dozens of men in black suits suddenly walked out from various places on the cruise ship. They took out their firearms and aimed at Vice Admiral and the others. Who allowed you to board the ship without your permission? The leader of the men shouted coldly with an expressionless face. Upon hearing this, Suru's face changed slightly, her eyes became sharp, and the expressions of several generals and commanders beside her also changed drastically. We heard gunshots and thought someone was attacking the celestial dragons, so we came on board to check. Crane Vice Admiral suppressed his anger and tried to answer in a calm tone. Then, she turned around and waved, raising her righteous cloak and shouting, "Let's go back." After saying that, he wanted to jump away, but there was a shout from inside the cabin. "Do you want to interrupt my pleasure of torturing my slaves? You can come and leave whenever you want." Upon hearing this, the dozens of men in black raised their firearms that they had just put down, all aiming at Vice Admiral and the others. Next moment, the door to the cabin opened, and a white-haired man wearing a spacesuit and a hood, with an arrogant and disdainful face and a look of disdain on all living beings, slowly walked out, supported by a huge slave. He glanced at the deck, and when he saw Crane Vice Admiral, his eyes lit up. "You, who is this?" The celestial dragons turned around and asked the leader in black. "Marine Vice Admiral." The man in black came to the celestial dragons and bowed to answer. Hearing this, the white-haired young celestial dragon's man's face was filled with excitement, his eyes sparkled with blazing light, and he burst into laughter. "Marine Vice Admiral is great, I haven't tried it yet." Buzz. Before he could finish his words, the pressure as vast as the sea came overwhelming. There was no resistance at all. The white-haired man, celestial dragons, rolled his eyes, foamed at the mouth and fell unconscious, falling straight towards the deck. If it weren't for the man in black's quick eyesight and quick hands, he might have fallen down. "Who is it?" He suddenly turned around and looked coldly in the direction of the warship. At the stern of the ship, at some point, standing on the side of the ship, was a Marine Vice Admiral with his hands in his pockets, looking down at the place with cold eyes. Chapter 31. Celestial Dragons Who Rule the World Advertisement. Vice Admiral, Monkey D. Chen. When he saw Chen, the man in a black suit's face suddenly changed and his pupils shrank suddenly. The shadow of the tree of human life. Men who dared to clean up gangs in the Sabodi archipelago at will, destroy human traffickers and merchant ships, and attack the minions of the Celestial Dragons. They, the licking dogs of the Celestial Dragons, must never be messed with. But now, this guy actually released Haki and stunned the Celestial Dragons, so the situation was different. As Marine Vice Admiral, you dared to offend Celestial Dragons. Chen, do you know what you are doing? The man shouted coldly. Hearing this, the surrounding Celestial Dragons guards armed with guns shifted their targets and aimed at Chen in the direction of the warship. As long as the leader gives the order, the trigger can be pulled at any time. After all, offending the Celestial Dragons, no matter who it is, even if it is a royal family, is definitely a capital offense. However, Chen sighed deeply. I didn't want to pay attention to these Celestial Dragons, but if I didn't stop them, what they said would be very unpleasant. Good thing now, the Celestial Dragons are unconscious. But the licking dogs of Celestial Dragons seemed to see bones, and their eyes became bright. How do you know it was Chen Vice Admiral who offended? At this time, Suru's pretty face tightened and she stared at the leader of the men in black with evil eyes and asked. No matter what, Chen took action for her. Therefore, at this time, Marine must be consistent with the outside world. Celestial Dragons seem scary to outsiders, but for Marine, he doesn't want to deal with these trash unless he has to. Unless it's the Celestial Dragons who control the world's government. Isn't the Conqueror's Haki just released by the Vice Admiral? The leader of the men in black sneered. You say that's true? Do you have any evidence? Crane Vice Admiral argued with each other without giving in at all. Hearing this, the man in black's face changed slightly and he was immediately speechless. Indeed, there is no evidence. Have you thought about the consequences of slandering a Marine Vice Admiral? Crane Vice Admiral was unreasonable and scolded with a cold face. I have to say, the effect is surprisingly good. These men in black are not Celestial Dragons after all, they are just the licking dogs of Celestial Dragons. As for Marine, there is no need to give them face at all. Dozens of men in black gritted their teeth in hatred. If they rashly file a complaint against Celestial Dragons, even if Chen and the other two will be punished, then they, the licking dogs, will have to face the suppression of the entire naval headquarters. Especially today's Sora Admiral, who is famous for protecting his shortcomings. Advertisement considering the power of Marine occupying the sea, it is not too easy to deal with a few of them Celestial Dragons. But my lord is unconscious. The leader of the men in black asked unconvinced. The weather is bad, I'm seasick. Before the other party could finish speaking, Vice Admiral he waved his hand to interrupt, then turned around and leapt away with several generals. Hateful. Dozens of men in black gritted their teeth in hatred as they watched Marine leave calmly. However, before they could react, a vast Conqueror's Haki, like a collapsing sky, formed a terrifying pressure and enveloped dozens of people directly. Even the slave under Celestial Dragons couldn't bear it and lost consciousness in an instant. After doing all this, Chen restrained himself from Conqueror's Haki. You're playing with fire. Crane Vice Admiral returned to the battleship and said with a worried expression. Ha ha ha, for Sister Suru, it's worth it together. Chen grinned. He had a big smile, like the boy next door. Humph, let's think about how to explain it later. Hearing Chen's words, Vice Admiral he turned his head angrily and walked directly towards the cabin. Chen, on the other hand, returned to the beach chair and lay down, looking at the slender and graceful back of Vice Admiral he, with a meaningful smile on his lips. Immediately, he closed his eyes and enjoyed the rare peace. As for the follow-up treatment of Celestial Dragon's coma, it was naturally due to extreme weather, so I got seasick. Extreme weather. The white-haired man, who was still dazed after waking up, glanced at the clear sky, with doubts on his face. Beside him, dozens of men in black looked very ugly. Sir, the cruise ship encountered huge waves just now, and even we showed signs of seasickness. The leader of the man in black, who had not been awake for long, said respectfully. Is that so? The white-haired man's Celestial Dragons was dubious, and then sighed with regret. It's a pity that the Marine Vice Admiral has left. If he is still here, you can discuss with me how to subdivide the laws for judging pirates. After finishing speaking, he shook his head and turned back to the cabin. And the deck of the battleship sailing at the forefront. Puff. Chen, who had just taken a sip of ice juice, sprayed it out and stained his snow-white collar, looking quite embarrassed. Waves of embarrassment appeared on his face. After holding it in for a long time, he let out a heavy breath. Damn, these Celestial Dragons are rare. To calm down, Chen couldn't help but mutter. Because of the memory of his previous life, he was completely preconceived about the Celestial Dragons. Advertisement, however, as far as the Celestial Dragons just now is concerned, it doesn't seem that bad, at least it's not a complete waste. But think about it. Not all Celestial Dragons are trash, there are a small number who can be called elites compared to ordinary people. For example, the 5 elders who control the world are the elites among the Celestial Dragons. Not to mention, there's the mysterious I Am. These beings are the real strong ones who support the Celestial Dragons and rule the world. But whether they are the trash among the Celestial Dragons or the elites, their philosophy is absolute domination of the world. A few days later, the fleet successfully entered the waters of the G2 branch. At the end of the horizon, the climate is very extreme. There were strong winds, huge waves, and howling black clouds, which seemed like an apocalyptic scene. The island where the G2 branch is located is on the edge of extreme climate. There was so much fog there that it was difficult to see clearly the entire military fortress from a distance. Report to Vice Admiral, the Celestial Dragons have sent an order to let us enter the branch base and separate from their fleet. Colonel Rick came over, saluted Lu Chen and reported. Tell them to get out. Lu Chen waved his hand with an impatient tone. Yes. Colonel Rick's expression changed slightly, but he quickly adjusted and quickly turned around and left in despair. In the past few days, what I have heard most are Lu Chen Vice Admiral's disrespectful words towards Celestial Dragons. From the beginning, everyone on the warship was uneasy. Up to now, it was just a shock and I recovered immediately. Rumble. After breaking away from the escort of the warship, the 6 huge ships, which looked like cruise ships and castles, suddenly burst out with terrifying power and rushed directly into the extreme climate. To this, Lu Chen was too lazy to pay attention and instead looked at the huge bunker in the distance. There is a huge codename written on the wall, G2. And when the 3 marine warships gradually approached the branch's port, Lu Chen, who was standing on the bow of the ship, couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Oh, on the first day you moved in, did you get any customers? As his words fell, above the dark sky, a 10-meter diameter lightning beam suddenly descended, dispersing the white mist in the branch, revealing the top floor of a huge military fortress. There are 2 figures standing. Chapter 32. Golden Lion and Kaido are shocked. Please give me some flowers. Advertisement. The thunder light fell, and the reflected sky and earth were as bright as day. However, the faces of Golden Lion and Kaido, who were under the lightning beam, changed drastically. They didn't expect that they were ordered to come here to inquire about the information in this sea area. They thought that with the ability of Lion Fruit, they could sneak into this marine branch quietly. However, he never expected to meet Marine, the Vice Admiral of Heavenly Punishment, who possesses the ability of Thunder Fruit Logia. Golden Lion asked himself, because he had been as careful as possible with Kaido, a reckless man. But he was still discovered by the other party. No one else has this kind of luck. Thunder 8 trigrams. Facing the lightning beam, Kaido pulled out the mace from his waist, roared heaven defying and came up, hitting the lightning hard. The Golden Lion's eyes widened. He wanted to stop it, but it was already too late. I saw lightning colliding with Kaido in the sky, releasing a dazzling light that made many people squint their eyes. Next moment, accompanied by an earth-shaking loud noise, the lightning beam exploded and turned into thousands of lightning bolts, dancing wildly across the sky. Kaido was scorched and covered in black smoke, falling from the sky until he crashed with a bang, making a human-shaped hole in the ground. You guys don't even use hockey. Golden Lion's forehead was covered with black lines. When he looked at the fallen Kaido, he felt a little embarrassed. Although he knew that this B********* D was thick-skinned, it was strange that he could be so trusting in the face of the enemy. Ah! It hurts so much. Immediately afterwards, Kaido crawled out of the human-shaped pit and rolled on the ground in pain. His flesh and blood split open, and the smell of barbecue filled the air. Stand up before you're dead. Landing from the top of the military fortress, Golden Lion stood beside Kaido and shouted coldly. This mission was originally enough for him alone. But before leaving, Charlotte Linlin asked Rox to let Golden Lion take Kaido out to practice. This D thing was knocked to the ground with a single blow. It was really embarrassing. Hiss. This guy's lightning can actually break my defense. After hearing Golden Lion's words, Kaido shook his head and stood up slowly. Visible to the naked eye, the cracked and charred flesh and blood gradually returned to its original state. This terrifying self-healing ability is simply amazing. The two of them stood in front of the marine fortress, acting as if there was no one around and completely unscrupulous. Advertisement. However, Golden Lion, who has the ability of Lion Fruit, can leave at any time if he wants. He was in an invincible position from the beginning, no wonder he felt confident. If you were frightened by a Marine Vice Admiral and run away, if the news spreads, you will probably be laughed at by the sea. At least you have to fight for it. Of course, this is the idea of the 2 Golden Lions. As for Lu Chen, who was standing on the docked warship, his eyebrows were slightly furrowed and his eyes flashed with a hint of coldness. Facing him, he didn't escape immediately. Great, this is provoking a Vice Admiral and the consequences will be serious. Who is that? At this time, the generals and others on other warships reacted one after another. A piercing siren sounded from the fortress. Marine soldiers, armed with firearms, came out from around the fortress and surrounded Golden Lion and Kaido. It's Golden Lion Shiki under Rock's pirate. Crane Vice Admiral came to Lu Chen's side, looking straight at the fortress ahead. His pretty face turned serious to ultimate, and said in a deep voice, I didn't expect them to appear here. When everyone heard this, their expressions changed drastically. The great pirate Golden Lion under Rox's reputation has already spread throughout the sea. The average marine is no match for him. Buzz, and just then, a strong conqueror's haki suddenly erupted from Golden Lion's body, like a male lion, and the terrifying momentum formed a hurricane and swept around. In an instant, the surrounding soldiers were so shocked that they almost lost consciousness. Even some generals and colonels felt their hearts throbbing. One can imagine how terrifying Golden Lion's current conqueror's haki is. But just then, Lu Chen, standing at the bow of the warship, spoke calmly. Come on my territory, Shiki, you've crossed the line. The words fell. A huge energy pressure was released directly from Lu Chen's body, like the force of the collapse of the world, directly covering the two golden lions. The hurricane formed by the momentum of the golden lion was dissipated immediately. At this moment, he and Kaido clearly felt that their bodies and minds were as terrifying as two mountains. Is this a divine punishment? Conqueror's haki is so powerful? Kaido was holding the mace, his eyes split with horror. He had only experienced this feeling with Captain Rock's advertisement. The most shocking one belongs to Golden Lion. It was not that he had not experienced the Conqueror's haki released by Lu Chen before, but this time, it seemed to be stronger. It was like a world was pressing in, making Golden Lion feel slightly frightened. Like Kaido, he only experienced it with Captain Rock's Shiki. Do you think my merits are not enough? At this time, Lu Chen in the distance had already taken out his trouser pockets with his hands. He looked at the two of them and smiled lightly. Do you really think that I can't do anything to you pirates? The words fell. There was a sting. Lu Chen's whole body turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared from the place in an instant. During this time, he gradually digested the previous battles with the Roger Pirates, and his proficiency in various aspects has improved. As various abilities improve, Conqueror's haki naturally improves. That's why Golden Lion's feelings are so shocking and inexplicable. Seeing Lu Chen taking the lead, his pupils shrank suddenly and he instantly pulled out the two swords from his waist. He released observation haki, locking in a bolt of lightning coming at extremely high speed. Slash wave. Two blazing sword lights rose up and struck a bolt of lightning along the void. The lightning shattered into pieces and turned into flashes of arcs all over the sky, then disappeared on the spot. TCH, does this level of strength scare you and Whitebeard? Upon seeing this, Kaido's rough face showed a look of disdain and he sneered again and again. But in the next moment, the smile on his face froze. The left cheek can be clearly seen due to the reflection of the arc, and cold sweat is flowing from his forehead. Have you ever been kicked by lightning? The long legs formed by intertwined arcs of electricity violently kicked Kaido on the head, causing the burly man of 7 to 8 meters to fly backwards with blood vomiting from his mouth. Finally, with a bang, it hit the wall of the military fortress before stopping. Dust filled the air and rose into the sky. Where Kaido was standing, Lu Chen's figure was outlined. He stared at the golden lion with indifferent eyes and said with a smile, "Now it's your turn." The words fell. There was a sting. The figure disappeared again. Chapter 33. He has become stronger again. Please give me some flowers. Advertisement at the ultimate speed. It is impossible to track it with the naked eye, so you can only rely on observation haki to lock Lu Chen's trajectory. As one of the great pirates under rocks, Golden Lion is experienced in many battles. But at this moment, facing Marine's most legendary young vice admiral, he didn't dare to relax or be careless at all, and concentrated on ultimate. Sizzling. Long legs intertwined with electricity suddenly appeared beside Golden Lion and kicked him hard on the head. This blow was more powerful and faster than the kick that hit Kaido just now. The air was filled with sparks and lightning. What a joke. Golden Lion's expression changed drastically, and he only had time to raise his two swords, holding them horizontally in front of him. Next moment, there was a loud noise, and the center of the collision released a terrifying circular shockwave. Golden Lion was shaken all over and flew backwards. His body shook a few times before he landed with difficulty and stood firm. However, it was blocked after all. Jiahahaha, you were pretty strong. After flexing his aching arms, Golden Lion raised his head with a hint of teasing on his lips. But before he finished speaking, his smile froze on his face. I saw Lu Chen standing there, raising one hand with his fingers spread out, and arcs of electricity burst out from his palm, creating a special magnetic resonance with the dark clouds in the sky. Next moment, Lu Chen's open palm shook violently. Boom, a huge thunderbolt like a beam of light, tens of meters in diameter, fell towards the Golden Lion's tinling cap in an instant. The terrifying thunder light illuminated the sky. The reflected light was as bright as day for thousands of meters in radius. The blazing light made many people squint their eyes, unable to look directly. This, Golden Lion's pupils shrank and his heart beat hard. But his reaction was not unpleasant. He slammed his hands toward the ground. Lion Majesty. Earth coiling. The earth seems to have been endowed with life and consciousness, turning into boundless waves, intertwining to form a behemoth, rising violently into the sky in the face of huge thunder and lightning pillars. Rumble. Advertisement. The lion's head and the lightning exploded, turning into dust that filled the sky and wreaked havoc on the surrounding area. Jiahahaha, if you only have this strength, you can't keep me. After defeating Lu Chen's attacks one after another, Golden Lion felt that he could do it again, and laughed arrogantly on his face. At the same time, he controlled the earth, once again forming a huge lion head that was as large as a warship, and flew directly towards Lu Chen. He is going to fight back. The huge movement spread throughout the G2 branch's fortress island. Countless soldiers came out from everywhere. On the deck of the warship docked at the dock, soldiers also walked out one after another. When they saw the scene in front of them, everyone's eyes showed horror. Everyone, stay away. At this time, Vice Admiral he realized what he was doing. His beautiful eyes were filled with horror, and he quickly shouted at the bewildered soldiers. After hearing her words, everyone retreated, not daring to stand too close. In front of the gate of the military fortress, the empty land has long been changed beyond recognition. A lion head as big as a warship flew into the air, carrying the power to destroy everything, and flew towards Lu Chen Vice Admiral with its teeth and claws spread. Golden Lion Shiki, the great pirate under rocks, has long been famous in the sea. This is a person with the ability of Paramecia lion fruit. However, in addition to the terrifying fruit ability, he is also a world-class swordsman. He holds 2 large swords, Kareki and Sakuraju. He is the top double sword swordsman in this sea. Without any exaggeration, in the next few decades, if he had not been so unlucky, he would have been able to become the world's #1 swordsman based on his swordsmanship alone. A strong man who stands at the top of the pyramid with his ability in swordsmanship. It can be said that in the entire naval headquarters, except for a few vice-admirals and admirals, other marine generals can only feel a deep sense of despair. Even the Crane vice-admiral has beautiful eyes with serious eyes. It's unimaginable that if I meet the opponent, I'm afraid I won't be able to win. But now, wood-style wooden golem jutsu. Accompanied by Lu Chen's cold shout, the incredibly strong plant roots suddenly broke through the surface, forming a huge wooden man that could rival a military fortress. The huge wooden golem stands tall on the ground, its blood-red eyes full of leering power. Boom, with just one slap, it grabbed the lion's head, which was as huge as a warship, and then smashed the lion's head into pieces with one punch, turning it into dust all over the sky. Advertisement, hiss. Is this what Lu Chen Vice-Admiral is capable of? Wait, what exactly is the ability to control plants? I don't know, but Lu Chen Vice-Admiral is really awesome. Looking at the scene in front of them, many marine soldiers started talking. Even he Vice-Admiral's pretty face tensed up, looking at Lu Chen's back, his beautiful eyes shone with a strange light. Although I had some knowledge of Lu Chen before, but when you feel it up close, it is still shocking to the soul. Shiki, if that's all you have, then I'm not welcome. At this time, Lu Chen crossed his arms, looked at the shocked golden lion, and issued a final ultimatum. After all, he didn't want to leave the site in a mess on his first day. Then, we can only decide quickly, you're welcome? Hearing Lu Chen's words, Golden Lion looked ugly. Isn't it too naive to want to keep him, a mere marine vice-admiral? You know, Golden Lion is not guys like Roger. From the beginning, he was invincible and could fly away at any time if he wanted to. Are you kidding? A marine vice-admiral just wants to keep Laozi. Even if Garp comes over, he can't do it. The Golden Lion was completely angry, holding the dead wood and Sakura 10, leapt up and slashed out 2 sword lights, splitting the huge wooden golem in 2. Then, holding 2 swords, he swooped down with an indomitable momentum. The speed was so fast that it caused a roaring sound. What a stubborn pirate! Looking at the Golden Lion swooping down from the sky, Lu Chen shook his head, and immediately burst out with waves of ferocious momentum. Like an ancient behemoth, it came to life at this moment. The surface of Lu Chen's body was filled with a layer of energy that was like seawater. The momentum was so strong that everyone in the entire branch was stunned. Kaido, who had just gotten up from the ground, looked up and couldn't help but take a breath. The figure emitting blue steam was as terrifying as a god. What is this? Getting stronger. The swooping Golden Lion was only 10 meters away from Lu Chen. However, he felt that the aura exuded by Lu Chen was actually stronger than before. Chapter 34. Shiki, you are officially arrested. Please give me flowers and tickets. Advertisement. How can it be? Even Vice Admiral Crane, who is also a marine, has his beautiful eyes widened and his cheeks filled with disbelief. A user with the ability of Logia Thunder Fruit. This ability alone is already powerful enough. Then there is the ability to control plants, which is hard to guard against. But now, there is still. The blue energy overflowed from his body, making Lu Chen's whole body exude an aura that dominated the sky. 8 inner gates, shocking door, open, ended. Lu Chen stared at the swooping Golden Lion indifferently. The cold light of the 2 sharp knives was already close to his eyes, and his pupils continued to dilate. But Lu Chen didn't seem to hear it, and he didn't take action until he was close to 1 meter away. There are no fancy physical skills. A very simple punch, just stand there, raise your hand and blast it out. In the eyes of others, this is too monotonous. However, in the eyes of Golden Lion, it was a different story. This simple punch squeezes the air into a small point when it is thrown out. Then the punch reached its end and was suddenly released. There was a dull thud. Golden Lion maintained its swooping posture, holding both swords and confronting Lu Chen's fist in the air. Kakaka, Kumu and Sakura 10 seemed to have struck Lu Chen's fist, but in fact, there was still a slight gap from the surface of Lu Chen's fist. That is the air that has been squeezed to the extreme, and is constantly being pushed back, so that the Golden Lion's arms holding the 2 swords are constantly trembling. As time went by, the air that was constantly being squeezed to the limit and the backlash force transmitted back also continued to increase. The force was so powerful that it almost made the Golden Lion's swords fly away. Are you kidding me? I can't even cut through the air? Golden Lion's face was full of horror, and his eyes almost popped out. His momentum was immediately crushed, like a sickly lion, his eyes full of despair and defeat. Really or not, even Shiki is no match for him. Under the fortress walls, Kaido was stunned. Judging from Lu Chen's age, he is only about the same age as him. But the strength seems to be completely different. Lu Chen Vice Admiral is too strong. Oh my god, is this the commander of our G2 branch? Ha ha ha, that's great. Advertisement. Look at that pirate who doesn't have the eyesight to defend our branch. I didn't expect that Lu Chen Vice Admiral would be so powerful and terrifying. The generals of the fortress and the officers and men on the warships were all sincerely shocked and surprised. What a terrible monster. Crane Vice Admiral shook his head and smiled. From being worried just now, to now, he is completely relaxed. It is obvious that Golden Lion will lose sooner or later. It seems he is more evil than Garp. Crane Vice Admiral looked at Chen, who was like a god descending to earth with his beautiful eyes, and commented to himself with a smile. In the field, the man with blue gas steaming all over his body was so majestic that it made people ignore the danger of the branch being invaded by a big pirate like the Golden Lion. Kaido, who was also a pirate, was frightened and did not dare to be so reckless anymore. The muscles of the Golden Lion's arms holding the double swords swelled suddenly, and the veins on his forehead pulsed, wishing to roar into the sky. Lion Majesty Espada Slash, accompanied by his loud shout. The two stalemate swords suddenly vibrated violently, and the shimmering blades were constantly invading the surface of the air that was squeezed into ultimate. He was about to break through the air released by Chen's punch. Yes, it's air, however, the corners of Chen's lips curled up into a faint smile. Then, under the desperate gaze of Golden Lion, he suddenly popped out an index finger from his clenched fist, instantly breaking the balance of air squeezed into ultimate. Next moment, boom, the air compressed to the ultimate level released an infinite ocean-like power, directly launching the Golden Lion and its two swords away. As Golden Lion flew upside down, his clenched teeth loosened, and with a loud sound, blood spurted out. The sky is stained with blood. You are no match for me now. Chen spoke calmly. Stabbed all over. The figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. Chen turned into a bolt of lightning, caught up with the Golden Lion that flew backwards, and punched him hard. There was a dull thud. The huge sound wave shook the entire island. Golden Lion fell like a meteorite, and his entire body was knocked deep underground. Just when everyone thought the battle was about to end. Whoosh! Advertisement: a golden figure rushed out of the unfathomable pit and roared into the sky. It was the Golden Lion whose face was covered in blood. Kaido, it's up to you. Above the sky, the heart-rending roar of the Golden Lion could be heard. It could be heard that this guy was already scared. What a physique that can withstand beatings. Seeing this, Chen raised his eyebrows. The punch just now was the advanced physical technique Shui Hu used after opening the Jingmen. The shape of the air cannon is like a tiger, and it is powerful. The scattered impact is enough to affect a distance of several kilometers. Unexpectedly, Golden Lion not only did not fall into a coma. At this time, he actually still had the strength to escape. It's a physique worthy of the pirate world. It's best to run away when you face me, otherwise you won't have a chance. Chen said lightly. He slowly raised his right hand, spread his fingers, and wisps of arcs danced happily on his fingertips. The dark sky was filled with crackling lightning. Next moment, Chen's raised arm was suddenly pulled down towards the earth, and the electric current swirling around his fingertips flashed with pale light. Rumble. Above the sky, following Chen's movements, dense lightning intertwined into a huge palm and shrouded the Golden Lion directly. How can it be? The Golden Lion, which had just flown below the clouds, let out a desperate scream. Immediately afterwards, the big hand of lightning fell, directly submerging him. His whole body became charred, and he fell from the sky. When he was almost close to the ground, branches wrapped around him as if they were spiritual. Shiki, you're officially under arrest. Chen came closer, raised his eyes and looked at the big pirate Golden Lion, who was foaming at the mouth and twitching all over, and said in a serious tone. Then, he turned his head slightly and looked towards Kaido under the fortress wall. Son of AB*****, Laozi will fight you. Sensing Chen's unkind look, Kaido was startled at first, then pulled out the mace from his waist and rushed over with a roar. Oh, Chen was not surprised but delighted, but the next moment, the smile on his face froze. I saw Kaido rushing forward a few steps, and then twisted his body. His burly and strong body instantly transformed into a huge green dragon, and rushed towards the end of the sky. That decisive figure looked so embarrassed and desperate one. Chapter 35. Unlocking Sage Mode, please give me some flowers. Advertisement rumble. Kaido flew high into the sky, but what greeted him was endless lightning. Lightning bolts fell one after another, splitting the skin of his body and causing blood to flow down. Made, you be ************. Laozi remembers it. A terrifying lightning strike struck his head, causing Kaido to scream in pain and keep shouting threats. However, he did not fall. He bathed in the thunderstorm and flew away, completely escaping from this hellish marine branch. Even though his whole body was charred and seriously injured, he still remained stubborn and did not fall down. What a terrible monster. Looking at the giant dragon gradually disappearing from sight, Chen said with emotion on his face. Hear the words. The Golden Lion was foaming at the mouth and twitching, his body was shaking even more, and his limbs were stiff. Put on the seastone shackles. Looking away from the sky, Chen raised his hand to greet the nearest soldiers. When the shackles made of seastone fell on Golden Lion's wrists, the entangled tree roots were completely released. Several generals, with expressions of disbelief on their faces, walked into the fortress holding the Golden Lion on their left and right sides, and threw the great pirate into a temporary prison inside the fortress. It can be said, this can be called the most important big pirate that the branch has imprisoned since its establishment. Many marine veterans stationed here are still in disbelief, as if they were in a dream. Chen, what are you going to do? After Golden Lion was imprisoned in the fortress prison, Crane Vice Admiral came closer, with a look of worry in his beautiful eyes. What should I do? Chen turned his head, looked at Sister Suru's heroic face, and couldn't help but smile. When Rox gets the news, he will definitely come to rescue Golden Lion. Crane Vice Admiral frowned slightly, pondered for a while, and then analyzed. So the best way is to immediately escort the Golden Lion back to the headquarters, then put it into impel down, and then spread the news immediately. You know, as the overlord of the New World, as long as it remains in the sea area, the power of Rox Pirate is much stronger than that of Marine. Relying on the strength of the branch alone, there is no way to defend Rox Pirate's offensive rescue. Therefore, we can only escort the Golden Lion back to the headquarters as quickly as possible. If the news spreads again, it will end Rox's desire to rescue Golden Lion. Advertisement. Moreover, Rox Pirate's high arrogance can be suppressed appropriately to enhance the confidence of Marine and other countries around the world. This method can be said to kill 3 birds with 1 stone. No matter how picky Chen is, he can't think of any words to refute. Well, then please leave it to Sister Suru. He nodded, agreeing with Suru's words. Please? This time it was Crane Vice Admiral's turn to be surprised. That's right, I don't trust others escorting me, only you can guarantee a smooth escort. Chen nodded seriously. Hearing this, Crane Vice Admiral's face turned red for some unknown reason. Her beautiful eyes looked at Chen, with waves of light flowing. Then what do you do? Crane Vice Admiral asked softly. You know, her existence is to help Chen adapt to the operation of the branch as soon as possible. If he leaves like this, what will Chen do? Don't worry, it's fine from what I've seen. Isn't there Colonel Rick? He's also a veteran of Marine. Chen smiled and pointed at the middle-aged Colonel Marine not far away. Of course. He was originally afraid of trouble. After all, it was his first time to station in the branch. Without a reputation that could be heard throughout the sea, it would be difficult to intimidate the soldiers in the branch. But it's different now. Golden Lion, the great pirate under Rox, is a role model. In this case, who dares to underestimate his youth? Okay, without further ado, I will take care of things before Rox gets the news. After thinking about it, Vice Admiral he nodded solemnly. She knew she couldn't hesitate now, so she immediately turned around and walked into the fortress, ordering the soldiers to escort the Golden Lion away. 10 minutes later, a Marine warship responsible for escorting the Golden Lion quietly left the port. In situ, Chen looked at it for a long time and finally slowly looked away. Ding, congratulations to host, you got 200,000 points. At this moment, the system notification sound came from inside my mind. Advertisement, 200,000 points? Chen raised his eyebrows and couldn't help but feel happy. Unexpectedly, arresting a Golden Lion and defeating a Kaido would earn 200,000 points. But thinking about it, it doesn't seem like much. After all, if you arrest half of the Roger Pirates, you will get 300,000 points. Obviously, compared to Golden Lion alone, or half of the Roger Pirates, the points will be more generous. However, what makes Chen most happy is not the points gain, but the improvement of ability. Host. Chen Fruit. Thunder Fruit, Awakening 8%. Hockey. Observation Color, 93%, Arm Color, 92%, Conquerors, 95%. Physical Skills. Marine 6 Styles, 3%, Gentle Fist, 98%, 8 Inner Gates, 60%. Template. Senju Hashirama, Wood Style 82%, Unlocked. Ninjutsu, Sealless Self-Healing, Wood Style Wood Clone, Big Scroll, 4 Red Yang Formation. Taijutsu. Monster Power, Blood Succession Limit, Wood Style Secret Technique The Birth of the Tree Realm, Wood Style Flower Arrival of the Tree World, Wood Style Wooden Technique, Wood Style Wooden Golem Jutsu. Sage Mode, Sage Art Myojinman, Sage Art Wood Style True Several Thousand Hands, Top Shanghua Buddha. Justice. 200,389 points, 500,000 before the next check-in. Glancing at the personal attributes panel, Chen's face was filled with a smile. Yes, during the battle just now, he broke through the limits of Thunderfruit and finally entered the awakening state. And it is precisely because of Thunderfruit's awakening that the final blow, like the mighty Thunderhand seal, is so powerful. The proficiency of each ability has been improved. Among them, there is also the template of Senju Hashirama. Ha ha ha, finally unlocked Sage Mode. Feeling the changes in her body at this moment, Chen was in a good mood. It is no exaggeration to say that even if Rox invades the branch at this time, he will be absolutely sure and face it calmly. After all, as the ninja god of the Hokage world, Senju Hashirama becomes invincible under 6 paths when he enters Sage Mode. Even his good friend Uchiha Madara, who has 9 tails and turned on Susanoo, can't defeat Senju Hashirama who has entered the realm of immortals. Chapter 36. A record that shocked the senior management of Naval Headquarters. Please give me some flowers and votes. Advertisement boom. The huge blue dragon turned into a human form, and Kaido, who was completely disabled and almost in a state of collapse, could no longer hold on after passing through the storm and lost consciousness. The burly body crashed onto a beach with lush vegetation, causing migratory birds in the rainforest on the shore to scream. I don't know how long it took, but when Kaido woke up again, his whole body seemed to be falling apart. Golden Lion, this idiot, should have told him not to mess with Marine, hiss. After cursing a few words, Kaido grimaced in pain as the wounds on his body were involved. Not to mention, although he had thick skin and thick flesh, he couldn't bear the thousands of lightning strikes on his body. If it weren't for his thick blood, he would have been knocked out like Golden Lion. Kaido knows that his current strength cannot compare with strong men like Golden Lion. But he also has the only advantage, that is, he can resist beatings. What the hell is this place? After half a day of rest, Kaido's injuries on his body were repaired. He slowly stood up and left the place along the coast. I do not know how long it has been. A luxurious dock appeared in the distance and caught his eye. At the same time, 6 magnificent cruise ships, like castles, docked quietly at the pier. Isn't this Chen, escort thing? Kaido's pupils shrank suddenly when he saw this. Immediately, he grinned and his eyes turned cold. I don't know what happened to that guy Shiki. If he is really caught, it would be embarrassing to go back to the pirate group, but it would be different if he brought some news back. Such a reckless man like Kaido actually became active at this moment. It seems that he was frightened by the thunder in the sky before. He started to appear cautious. The marine battleship that set off from the G2 branch kept riding the wind and waves, rushing back towards the naval headquarters at the fastest speed. 5 days later, naval headquarters, Marineford. The warship holding Golden Lion Shiki entered the military port. Crane Vice Admiral. A rear admiral who had been waiting on the dock immediately saluted the Crane Vice Admiral who was standing next to the ship's side. Well, the next step is up to you. Crane Vice Admiral nodded slightly and immediately jumped off the warship and left. The task of escorting Golden Lion Shiki was officially handed over to the Marine Rear Admiral, and he was sent directly to impel down almost non-stop. The Golden Lion, who was imprisoned in the warship prison, probably couldn't imagine it. What awaits him will be the most heavily defended deep-sea prison in the world. Watching the warship leave the port, it gradually disappears into the vast and huge portal. Crane Vice Admiral withdrew his gaze, with a solemn face, turned around and walked towards the headquarters building. Advertisement at this time. Empty Admiral's office. After receiving the news, the top Marine generals gathered here in a rare gathering. Even Garp, who was supposed to return to the branch today, decided to stay and patiently waited for the arrival of Crane Vice Admiral. Squeak. The office door opens. The heroic female hero, Crane Vice Admiral, stepped in. How did my B********** D brother defeat the Golden Lion? When Garp saw Vice Admiral Crane coming in, he immediately walked closer and asked, looking impatient. There are lessons learned from past experiences of secretly hiding strength. Now every time I hear the news about Chen's victory, Garp, this brother, is the most anxious, fearing that he still has a hidden agenda. His fruit ability has awakened. Crane Vice Admiral narrowed his beautiful eyes, looked at Garp and smiled lightly. In fact, when she came back, she had already informed the headquarters of the details. From the discovery of the Golden Lion, to the defeat of the Golden Lion, and Kaido's escape, everything is reported in detail. However, Vice Admiral he did not say anything about the blue steam that evaporated from Chen's body and instantly increased his strength. After all, in her heart, Chen is still young and should have her own secrets. In other words, it would be better to wait for the parties involved to reveal this kind of thing. I see. Hearing Vice Admiral Crane's words, Garp suddenly understood and felt relieved. Well, I didn't hide anything from him. What, his devil fruit ability has awakened. That's Logia in its awakened form, and its power will explode exponentially. How old is Chen Vice Admiral? Oh my god, what a monster. Fortunately these are our Marines. All Marine senior executives were deeply shocked. As everyone knows, Devil Fruit has a state of awakening. Paramisha's awakening has the ability to affect objects other than herself. And Zone's awakening has unparalleled recovery capabilities. As for the awakening of Logia fruit ability, it is the change of natural climate. Inside the original work, the duel between Marine Admiral Akainu and Aokiji in the future caused permanent climate change on an island. This is the power of the awakening of the Logia Devil Fruit. Have the ability to change the natural climate at will. Advertisement. No wonder the Golden Lion can be captured. Sengoku sat aside and couldn't help but nod in admiration. Although Golden Lion has the ability to fly, it can't escape from the air in the face of endless thunder. Zephyr was also shocked by this. Half a year ago, he was on par with Chen, but lost by just a hair. But now, the gap between the two may have widened further. I can't leave Chen behind too much, however, Zephyr quickly adjusted and remained optimistic and determined. Chen is very good this time. He helped Marine and severely damaged Rock's pirates' arrogance. Kong Admiral was radiant. Before Chen joined Marine, he had rarely been so high-spirited. But the next moment, Kong Admiral's smile faded, his expression was solemn, and he asked in a deep voice, "But how come Golden Lion and these evil gangs of Rocks appear in the G2 branch? You know, although Rock's pirate is powerful, it has supreme prestige in the New World. However, he would never take the initiative to provoke Marine. After all, a thief is a thief, and he has an inexplicable fear of the righteous Marine. This time, it was indeed unusual. I thought it was abnormal before, but when I came back, I thought about it. The Golden Lion's target might be the celestial dragons we were escorting." Crane Vice Admiral pondered for a moment and said slowly. As soon as these words came out, the entire office fell silent instantly. Celestial dragons. It is not something that this department can decide regarding those who claim to be descendants of the Creator God. Well, after all, the celestial dragons we escorted were too conspicuous. Maybe pirates like Golden Lion thought they were escorting tax money. At this time, Crane Vice Admiral made another guess. After everyone heard this, the atmosphere relaxed a little. This guess is relatively reliable. After all, even the most vicious pirates would never dare to provoke the celestial dragons. This is already an unwritten rule in this sea. Even Sora Admiral nodded in agreement. but no matter what the other party's intentions are, people are captured and enter impelled down anyway. The Holy Land has responded and will publicize this matter. Sora Admiral put his hands on the table and nodded to Crane Vice Admiral. Propaganda means spreading the news. Use the fastest speed to spread to the whole world, and even reach Rock's ears. And the only one with this ability is the world government. That's good. Crane Vice Admiral breathed a sigh of relief. Next, I believe that the G2 branch will usher in a period of peace. Chapter 37. Roger. He is the storm that stirs up the world, please vote for flowers. Advertisement. The speed of world government's work is beyond praise. Just when Crane Vice Admiral came to Kong Admiral's office to report, the warship holding the Golden Lion sailed into the Gate of Justice and came directly to impel down. And a notification also flew to all parts of the world. Countless newspapers rushed from government agencies around the world, spreading the news throughout the world in just half a day. Rock's pirate is so arrogant that Marine Vice Admiral strikes hard and captures Admiral Golden Lion Shiki, one of Rock's subordinates. Close double angle bracket. After Pluton Rayleigh, the deputy captain of the Roger Pirates, another great pirate was imprisoned and entered impelled down. Close double angle bracket. The rise of Vice Admiral heralds the end of pirates. Close double angle bracket. Fighting two evil groups at the same time, punishment from heaven. Vice Admiral lives up to his name, punishment from heaven. Close double angle bracket. It must be said that world government has rich experience in propaganda methods. Just a few eye-catching titles instantly shocked the world. Whether they are ordinary people, pirate gangs, or a royal family, they are all subjected to the name of heaven's punishment, which is extremely shocking. Vice Admiral, how awesome, oh my god, is it true or not, Vice Admiral, the god of punishment, actually arrested the Golden Lion Shiki of Rock's pirate? That's the big pirate of the new world. This monster seems to have only been promoted to Vice Admiral for less than half a year, right? Hiss. Why'd I feel that no matter what kind of pirate you are, you will be unlucky when you meet him? No, you can be more confident, you are really unlucky. I can testify to this. I have no luck when I meet this guy. My pirate group was destroyed by the Vice Admiral in West Blue. This B**********D is really the nemesis of our pirates. There is talk around the world, especially the pirates who had met Chen before were even more shocked. The capital of Seven Waters. Seeing the outline of the hull being gradually formed in the shipyard, Roger was in an unprecedented good mood, and the smile on his face became even brighter. Although it is only a temporary pirate ship, it is also a valuable help to the current plight of the pirate group. Roger. Advertisement. At this time, Jabba's panicked voice came from behind. Turning around to look, Roger grinned and laughed. Jabba, what could have made you so rash? Look, our ship is almost ready to be built. Roger ignored the newspaper in Jabba's hand and said happily. That's the boat built for us by Brother Tom himself. I believe we can overcome any wind and waves. Ha ha ha. I wonder how guys like Rayleigh would feel if they knew about it. By the way, what were you going to say just now? After talking for a while, Roger realized that Jabba was feeling uncomfortable, so he asked with a puzzled look. See for yourself, this guy Rayleigh should have a partner. Jabba smiled bitterly and handed over the newspaper in his hand. The contents of the newspaper had just been released by world government. Just one glance at it made Roger's eyes almost pop out of his head. After a while, a burst of laughter soared into the sky, resounding throughout the entire Water City. Is it that funny? Jabba's forehead is covered with black lines. The other crew members were also dumbfounded, and they were completely unpredictable about the captain's thoughts. This is good news, isn't it funny? The smile on Roger's face continued, and his eyes became brighter. He looked at Jabba and the others, feeling a little resentful of the indifference of Steel, and said, I thought about rescuing Rayleigh and the others before, but I wasn't very sure because of the problem of leaving impelled down. Having said this, Jabba and the others were shocked, and seemed to have thought of something. Ha ha ha, now that Shiki is inside, there will be no problem, isn't this something to be happy about? It must be said that although Roger's thinking has always been very fast, he can always capture the ideas at critical moments. Rescuing Shiki can also repay the original kindness. Roger stopped smiling and said seriously, I admire it. I didn't expect you to think of this, Roger. Jabba surrendered, completely convinced. The other crew members also agreed with this, but when can we set off to rescue Brother Rayleigh and the others? Impelled Down is not far from naval headquarters, and marine forces can arrive at any time for support. But the crew was still a little worried, but Roger was very confident and said with a smile, the time has not come yet. Believe me, this guy is a storm that stirs up the sea. It won't be long before he will definitely do something big that will shock the world. Advertisement, hey, that's the time for us to rescue. After hearing this, several crew members didn't understand it very well. But for veteran crew members like Jabba, it is inexplicable to believe that since the voyage, the captain's keen sixth sense can always make the most correct choice. Do you believe him so much? Jabba asked curiously. Of course I believe it. He is different from Garp, and more worthy of fear from the enemy than Garp. Roger said with certainty. If he is a pirate, he will definitely become Marine's biggest enemy. A storm that stirs up the world? That Marine is really scary. Jabba felt extremely fearful in his heart. After hearing the words of the two men, the rest of the crew still felt palpitations at this moment. The past experiences seemed to be vivid in my mind. Yes, but precisely because of this kind of enemy, the sailing days in the future will not be so boring. Roger's mentality was very good. Not only was he shocked by Chen, but he also felt angry in his heart and wanted to make things right. New World, Beehive Island. Compared to the crazy atmosphere in the past, today seems particularly quiet. Many pirates did not dare to show their anger. Even if they were walking, they deliberately lowered their voices for fear of alarming the captain deep in the island. Inside the ancient huge palace, the violent momentum was like a storm overflowing, and the pirates on the island were trembling physically and mentally. All the high-level pirates in Rock's Pirate were forcibly summoned. Even the arrogant Whitebeard was involved today. Regardless of what these big pirates have in mind, facing the Rock's Pirate losing a powerful man like Golden Lion deserves everyone's vigilance. Oh. Before the pirate meeting had begun, an unbridled laughter came from the sky. Kaido. Well, I knew that Brother Kaido wouldn't fall so easily. The happiest person was Charlotte Luen, eating the dessert in her hand with a big smile on her face. Oh, Golden Lion has been captured, why is Kaido back? Silver Axe raised the corners of his mouth and said with a teasing smile. The words fell. Many pirates in the conference room looked down one after another. Chapter 38. The ambition to become the king of the world, please give me some flowers. Advertisement. Everyone at Rock's Pirate also learned about the arrest of Golden Lion Shiki from the world government's report. I thought that since I didn't see Kaido's name in the report, everyone thought that this guy was dead. After all, they encountered Marine Vice Admiral. With so many members of the Roger Pirates, it was not surprising that Golden Lion was captured, and it was even more common for Kaido to be killed directly. This meeting is just to make everyone wary of Marine, the Vice Admiral. What I didn't expect was that the meeting hadn't started yet. Above the sky, Kaido's laughter could be heard. It was very wild, even arrogant. Silver Axe is the first to look down on the cold wind craze. If it weren't for the still charming Charlotte Luen who protected Kaido, Kaido would have suffered a lot with his arrogant character in this pirate group where the jungle is strong. Well, the soul in your brain must be delicious. Charlotte Luen finished the dessert in her hand and turned to look at Silver Axe, a look of madness on her beautiful face. Her body is extremely tall, and she has not yet looked old at this time. She is very slender and graceful. She wears leather pants on the lower body and a jacket on the upper body. The figure is still charming, and the politeness of wearing it shows the temperament of an aristocratic lady. However, no one, including Rocks, dared to underestimate this woman. Snort. Silver Axe snorted and stopped teasing, feeling full of fear in his heart. At this time, Rocks, who was sitting on the throne, glanced at everyone present before waving Kaido in. The footsteps were very cheerful. In his youth, Kaido is tall with a tough face. Apart from being a little arrogant, his appearance alone cannot be faulted. Oh, hey, Captain Rocks, I think everyone knows that Shikigai was captured by Marine, right? Kaido grinned broadly. Hearing this, some cadres who had a good relationship with Golden Lion suddenly looked at him with unkind eyes. No matter how you look at it, a trainee pirate with such a noisy personality feels like he deserves a beating. Whitebeard sat next to Rocks, holding the barrel of wine and pouring it into his mouth. It wasn't until one of the wine barrels was empty that I put it down without feeling satisfied. Boom. The wine barrel fell to the ground with a muffled sound. The pirates who were noisy and angry just now all shut up. Advertisement. Even Kaido's expression changed slightly and he put away his arrogance. If we say Rocks is the soul of the pirate group, he is also recognized as the #1 pirate by the outside world. That Whitebeard is the second in command of Rock's Pirate. Of course, if someone dares to challenge Whitebeard and wins the challenge, this established fact can be changed. But Rock's Pirate has been riding the sea for many years, and the guys who challenged Whitebeard were all sunk into the sea. This is a status achieved with strength. It is not a fact that can be changed by personal will. Captain, I have a secret to tell you. Kaido calmed down and said with a smile on his face. Explain. Rocks frowned, but still allowed Kaido to speak. However, Kaido shook his head and said solemnly, this secret is related to world domination, but the fewer people know about it, the greater the help will be to the captain's ambition to conquer the world. Originally, everyone was extremely angry because of Kaido's attitude. But when they heard this, everyone's eyes widened and they all looked towards Rocks. Even Whitebeard frowned. He didn't seem to expect that this D Kaido would say such a thing. Everyone knows that after conquering the new world, the captain's ambition has become so great that it has spread throughout the world. It's just that I haven't made up my mind yet. Then how many people do you think can stay here? Rocks sat on the throne, his thin body slightly raised, his eyes glaring at Kaido and said. Hearing this, Kaido's expression changed. This is digging a hole for him. If everyone is allowed to stay, who knows if there are world government spies inside? But asking everyone to step back, based on his understanding of everyone, is likely to cause trouble for him. This is the answer to a dilemma. Stay in Newgate. I don't know if it's true or not. If it's false, you can't be laughed at. Kaido pondered for a while, then raised his finger and pointed at Whitebeard. To this, everyone who wanted to be angry suddenly lost their temper. Advertisement. It has to be said that Kaido, who has a reckless personality, is rarely cautious and refined at this time. Because this secret involves the whole world. Except for Whitebeard, everyone left the palace with doubts. For a moment, the entire lobby fell silent. Rocks stood up from the throne. He was not tall, only more than 2 meters tall. He looked short and thin compared to the giants like Kaido and Whitebeard. However, as he walked forward, Kaido felt for no reason, invisible pressure, squeezing like a mountain, and his mind and body were shaking uncontrollably. Say it, little Kaido. Arriving in front of Kaido, Rocks stopped, looked up at him and grinned. Whitebeard sat in the direction of the steps and looked over, also curious. As for the people who were kicked out, they were even more annoyed and curious. Luen, your little brother seems to be treating you badly too. John looked towards Charlotte Luen, with a smile on his lips. Well, so what, I need him to be nice to me. Charlotte Luen's eyes turned cold, exuding pressure that affected her soul, and released it with Conqueror's Haki. HMPH, put your momentum away, no one here will be afraid. Silver Axe sneered. Ochaku and the others all looked like they were watching a show. If these big pirates hadn't gathered around Rocks, they would have wanted to devour each other to strengthen their own pirate fleet. But just when everyone was confronting each other, an arrogant roar suddenly came from the palace and resounded throughout the entire island. Ha 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 ha, Laozi wants to conquer this world and become the true king of the world. The next moment, Conqueror's Haki surged out from all over the world, causing the color of the world to change, and the sky seemed to be crushed. The faces of Charlotte Luen, John and others all changed drastically, and their eyes showed seriousness. Once upon a time, the captain's laughter was so crazy. That only proves that the secret Kaido said can really help the captain conquer the world. Chapter 39. Chen. Rocks is coming to attack me, please give me tickets for flowers. Advertisement C Circle Calendar 1479 Early Years. New World. Marine G2 Branch. Being on the edge of extreme climate, the place is filled with white fog all year round, and only occasionally does the sun shine through the gaps in the white fog. Looking towards the sea from the military port, several huge luxury cruise ships passed by at a very fast speed, and finally disappeared in the rain. Building a military fortress in this hellish place, Marine, no, the world government is really rich. Chen lay on the beach chair, looked towards the school grounds, and couldn't help but complain in a low voice. I have been coming to this damn place for more than half a year. The only alien ship in sight. It's the Celestial Dragon's luxury cruise ship that passes here every few months. But beyond that, let alone pirate ships, I have never seen even ordinary merchant ships. Chen felt strange at first. Later, I found a nautical chart and suddenly realized that the coordinates of the G2 branch and the surrounding area of hundreds of miles were not the only way to navigate. Even a sailing idiot like Chen can see this. The construction coordinates of this military fortress are completely redundant for fighting pirates and guarding one side. Your Excellency Chen is right, but for the world government, the financial resources spent on building military bases may simply be to escort the passing Celestial Dragon's cruise ship. At this time, Colonel Rick, who was standing straight aside, bowed and answered in a low voice. After following Chen for so long, the middle-aged general no longer had much respect for the Celestial Dragons. But after hearing his words, Chen raised his eyebrows. Escort Celestial Dragons? In his mind, there seemed to be a bolt of lightning that instantly cut through the chaos. Ha ha ha, I'm such an idiot, Chen raised his head and laughed. The laughter is very hearty and self-deprecating. Colonel Rick and the Marine soldiers practicing at the school grounds in the distance all looked at this with confusion. For the commander-in-chief of the fortress, the soldiers who have been stationed for many years can be said to love and hate him. What I love is that the commander-in-chief is extremely powerful and can deal with it calmly even if he encounters an accident. What I hate is that Chen is too changeable. Every morning, except for the soldiers who are on duty and resting, everyone else must gather in the school field for training. Even the generals are no exception. Of course, the effect is also obvious. The soldiers and generals in the branch have become accustomed to this kind of hard training, and everyone's strength is rapidly improving. Well, after getting along for more than half a year, everyone no longer hates Chen. Advertisement sum, it is respect and fear. Report, Your Excellency Chen, Naval Headquarters is calling. At this time, a captain rushed from the fortress and saluted Chen respectfully. Chen gradually stopped laughing, and a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. Are there any other tasks? He was filled with anticipation. As for what I just thought of, it is obviously not possible to leave the branch and it is important to carry out military operations. After all, according to the memory of the previous life. It seems that time is not up yet. With this in mind, Chen got up from the beach chair and walked towards the military fortress. At the end, he turned around and shouted to the soldiers practicing in the school field. Don't be lazy, otherwise you will be in trouble. Yes, Your Excellency Chen. Thousands of soldiers and officers responded in unison. The momentum is overwhelming. In just over half a year, the branch's tendency to fall was completely wiped out. Chen nodded with satisfaction and immediately walked into the military fortress. The collar was from Naval Headquarters. As soon as he picked it up, Admiral's deep voice sounded full of anxiety and panic. Chen, Rock's pirate has been moving recently. The expression of the phone bug showed the solemn look of Sora Admiral. Abnormal movement. What does that have to do with me? Chen asked with a puzzled look on his face. According to the information we received, the target of this sudden move by Rock's pirate is you. Sora Admiral spoke in a deep voice. Me? Chen raised his eyebrows. Yes, when you captured Golden Lion Shiki, they didn't take any action. I had long suspected that these guys were planning a bigger plan. A bigger plan? Isn't the whole group going out to attack me? Hearing Kong Admiral's solemn words, Chen couldn't help but laugh. However, Sora Admiral's next words made him stop laughing. Your guess is correct. All members of the Rock's Pirate are out to attack you. Their goal is to defeat you. The name they promote is to avenge the Golden Lion. Chen. I have asked Suru to lead 3 warships to set off. I think they are on their way. Don't worry, I also informed Garp stationed in the G3 branch and ordered him to rush to support at full speed. And the subsequent warships are getting ready to set off one after another. This is not a matter for you alone, but a threat to the entire naval headquarters. Advertisement Kong Admiral expressed deep relief and made a solemn promise to Chen. You know, if it is a big pirate under rocks, or a combination of several big pirates, Marine will not be so passive. But now it's rocks and the entire pirate group is dispatched. If you don't take action in publicity, then Chen will pay the price if you take action. This is what happens if you mess with him rocks. Such a big fanfare is tantamount to declaring war on Marine, and Sora Admiral will naturally not take it lightly. Marshal Marine, who was stationed in the Holy Land, was furious about this. The world government also issued emergency authorization and ordered Air Admiral to fully support the G2 branch. How much time is left? Chen asked with a frown. If it were anyone else, they would definitely feel relieved about naval headquarters all-out support. However, there was no disturbance in his heart. According to the intelligence, Rock's pirates fleet will be able to reach your sea area in about 3 days, Kong Admiral said in a deep voice. I see, Chen responded calmly and immediately hung up the phone. He turned around and glanced at the stunned generals. You have all heard what I said just now, so be prepared to fight. Chen gave a feigned order. It took a long time for all the generals to wake up. Their expressions changed drastically, and panic appeared in their eyes. They thought they would be harassed by Rock's pirates. But I never thought that it was Rox himself leading the whole group to crusade. For a time, fear grew in everyone's heart. Chen Vice Admiral. Some people panicked for a moment. Before he could finish speaking, Chen waved his hand to interrupt and spoke again. Listen to my order, mobilize all combat forces of the branch and prepare to face the Rock's pirate. The tone was very bland, but it contained an unquestionable momentum, which immediately made the generals who wanted to say something no longer dare to say anything. They saluted and turned around to leave. Give me the nautical map of the surrounding seas. After everyone left, Chen turned to Colonel Rick and gave instructions. He wanted to determine the Rock's true goal. Is he trying to defeat himself, or does he have another purpose? Chapter 40. What the hell am I guarding the Valley of Gods? Please give me tickets for flowers. Advertisement: The Rock's pirate is coming fiercely. According to the intelligence from naval headquarters, Rox personally leads the entire group of pirates, and Chen will definitely pay the price. This movement was so big that the whole world was already boiling. Even, it has been passed to the first half of the Grand Line and all over the world. Rock's pirate did not hide anything, and dozens of pirate warships headed straight towards the coordinate waters of the G2 branch. It's hard for others not to know, completely upright and full of overlord momentum. No wonder Sora Admiral was so anxious. However, the intelligence agency was also at a disadvantage. The other party had already left Beehive Island, but they did not report it immediately. Chen thought so in his heart. Of course, he didn't know that the spies sent out by the world government had long been killed by Rox. Your Excellency Chen, I have brought you the navigation chart you requested. At this time, Colonel Rick came back with a navigation chart in his hand. Neatly spread out on the table, a map with a radius of hundreds of miles marked the changing trends of ocean currents and climate, and even recorded the surrounding coordinates. It can be said that the sea area within a range of several hundred meters is very detailed. Even though he had seen it many times, Chen still watched it carefully. As before, he found nothing special. Except for the turbulence in the sea not far from the G2 branch, even marine warships can shuttle through it. Not to mention pirate ships and ordinary merchant ships, if they have to forcefully pass through this extremely turbulent current, the final result will be the death of the ship and the people. No, Celestial Dragon's cruise ship is more powerful than a warship, so it should be able to travel through it. Chen thought of the key. At this time, he was inseparable, and the branch he was in was the sea area of the Valley of Gods. And Rox suddenly said that he wanted to attack him. Maybe it was not for the Celestial Dragons, right? However, Chen is not entirely sure, because it does not intersect with the timeline in his memory. The original Valley of the Gods took place 38 years ago, which is 2 years later and 40 years ago. So, there is still 1 year to go. Rox mobilized their entire team this time, whether to defeat Chen or the Celestial Dragons. Of course, Chen still has a high chance that the sea area where his branch is located is in the sea area near the Valley of Gods. I didn't expect that when I said I could be transferred casually, it turned out to be such a coincidence. Chen was speechless. Am I guarding the Valley of the Gods? This is too much of a coincidence. However, now that it has happened, he can only face it. Advertisement next to him, Colonel Rick didn't dare to express his anger. He looked at Chen's changing expression and felt uneasy in his heart. Facing the attack of the Overlord of the Sea, no one can face it calmly. Inform the headquarters, I will sit in the branch and fight against the Rock's pirate with all my strength. After a while, Chen shook his head and immediately ordered Colonel Rick to go down. Yes. Colonel Rick took a deep breath, saluted respectfully, and turned to leave. Come on, I haven't been active for more than half a year. Chen stepped away from the fortress, his cloak with the word, Justice, written in black ink flying in the strong wind. After more than half a year of training and rectification, the atmosphere within the branch is no longer the degenerate and sluggish past. Although I was very scared in my heart, when the order was given, I still acted in an orderly manner. The artillery fire and formation of the warships, and the artillery and weapons on the coast, were moved out of the weapons depot and erected in rows just as they had been rehearsed. It's amazing. Even though I knew I was facing Rock's pirate, I didn't panic or fear. Hey, Laozi is scared to death, but his body instinctively obeys the orders. Didn't you notice? Chen Vice Admiral has used all the rehearsals he practiced before. Hey, I didn't notice it, but I really used them all. At the beginning, I thought it was strange. The branch was safe all year round, so why was it rehearsing large-scale war operations? Now I finally know. Chen Vice Admiral has the ability to predict the future? Hiss. It looks very similar to me. The soldiers were very scared in their hearts, but for some reason, when they found that taking action was easier than they imagined, their fear gradually turned into excitement. In the end, everyone thought that Chen had a prophetic vision, and they were no longer so afraid of the war in 3 days. After all, Vice Admiral had already predicted it, so the result would definitely not be too bad. Thinking like this, everyone relaxed. Even the generals and commanders were very sure that this was true. Thousands of people looked at the figure standing in front of the fortress, their eyes filled with endless awe. This was the supreme commander of their branch. Prophecy? After hearing the exchanges between the soldiers, Chen's mouth twitched and his forehead was covered with black lines. Only then did he remember that in this world, there was any allusion to the idea of raising an army for 1,000 days in a moment. The so-called daily drill training is to keep the soldiers alert to war. No wonder, in the original work, the Whitebeard Pirates alone frightened the naval headquarters into recruiting elite troops. Obviously, there was a lack of training and rehearsals, which caused everyone in Marine to panic. Advertisement: these shortcomings must be corrected in the future. Chen thought secretly in his heart. After stationing at a branch and being attacked by pirates, so many problems were discovered. No wonder in the original novel, Marine is a symbol of decay in the eyes of many people. However, that's about it. Now that he has appeared, these shortcomings must be changed. The next day, the sea around the branch was calm. Several surveillance ships surrounded the branch island within 100 miles, always checking what was going on around them. The third day, early morning, instead of welcoming Rock's pirates fleet, they received Marine's first support. There is movement on the sea surface, something unusual is found. The soldiers monitoring the ship sounded the alarm. At the same time, the soldiers on the ship were holding firearms and wanted to shoot at the figures swimming by at high speed on the sea. But when they took aim, the opponent had disappeared from their sight. In the end, the only option was to sound the alarm and draw the attention of the island coast directly. Coming from the bottom of the sea, Chen, who was sitting at the dock, couldn't help but stand up after receiving the alarm. Looking at the sea in the distance, it is faintly visible, the rushing water is flying to both sides, and a figure is like a swordfish, almost sticking to the sea surface, speeding towards the coast at a very fast speed. Get ready to fire. The soldiers who had been prepared for a long time set up artillery and blocked the opponent's way. However, at this moment, Chen waved his hand. Don't be nervous, this is support from our marine. As his words fell, the figure on the sea had already arrived in the direction of the coast, still tens of meters away. With a pop, it leapt up from the sea and landed steadily on the coast. Where's Rocks? The visitor's first words made everyone stunned. Looking at each other's eyes, mind and vision were deeply impacted. Chapter 41. Roger. The time has come to rob the prison. 2 updates. Advertisement: World Economic Daily, an independent newspaper owned by Morgan's news agency. In this era where the world government monopolizes the publicity outlet, World Economic Daily is not living comfortably. President Morgan's is worried about this day and night, and even loses a lot of feathers. However, these days completely changed after Rock's visit. Morgan's knows that this is his opportunity to break through the predicament. If he misses it, World Economic Daily will decline and never rise again. After all, the power of Rock's pirate can be said to be unprecedented. For a time, printing plants started working like crazy, printing newspapers with all their strength, and newspaper branches around the world did the same, recruiting countless seagulls to be responsible for transporting newspapers to all parts of the world. Rock's rages across the New World, leading the entire pirate fleet to crusade against Marine's heavenly punishment, Vice Admiral, close double-angle bracket. After half a year of preparation, Rock's took action again, publicly declaring war on Marine Vice Admiral for the first time. This was a moment that attracted worldwide attention, close double-angle bracket. The content of the newspaper was engraved with very exaggerated headlines. Compared with the arrest of Golden Lion by Chen Vice Admiral half a year ago, it is not far behind. It was this kind of headline that immediately caught everyone's attention, and everyone who read the newspaper was shocked beyond measure. In less than 2 days, the newspaper was distributed all over the world and reached everyone's ears. The capital of 7 waters. A brand new looking ship, made entirely of mahogany, looked perfect except for its slightly smaller size. At this time, it slowly approached the coast. Roger jumped off the boat, his face was radiant, but his eyes were a little dim. For more than half a year, we have tried all our methods, but we still have no chance to sneak into impel down. Jabba followed behind and said with a sad face, "Ha ha ha, there will definitely be one." Roger laughed without knowing it, but the next moment. Walla lalla. Newsbirds flew over and dropped newspapers all over the sky like snowflakes. One newspaper happened to cover Roger's face. What? This doesn't look like a report from the world government. While complaining, Roger opened the newspaper on his face and looked over without trace. Then, the whole person froze. Jabba and the others next to him were immediately confused when they saw this. They called Roger several times but received no response. So, they also picked up the newspaper to see what the content was that shocked Roger so much. Advertisement just a glance, including Jabba, several crew members were all petrified on the spot. I was stunned for almost half a minute. With Roger's laughter that echoed through the sky, everyone woke up one after another. Captain, is it so funny? This is a world-class war, Rox is too crazy. Oh my god, the whole group actually set out to attack the Vice Admiral. If Rox succeeds, it will definitely have a big impact. What a pity, we still have to rescue our companions, and we don't have time to care about these things. Everyone was talking a lot, feeling shocked and regretful. Unfortunately, in order to rescue their companions, they have not gone to the New World for more than half a year, which means they are far away from these battles. What expressions do you have when I talk about you? Roger looked at the crew, grinned and said, everyone, the time has come for us to rob the prison. Hearing this, the crew members who were talking about it just now were all stunned. Even Jabba opened his mouth wide and looked at Roger in disbelief. You have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I have a hunch the New World will start a war with far-reaching consequences. Roger suppressed his smile and said seriously, Naval Headquarters will also participate. At that time, the Marine strength nearby will reach an all-time low. This is our best chance to rob the prison. I have to say that although there is no substantial evidence, just hearing the captain's words makes people believe it involuntarily. Nothing else, because based on the sixth sense alone, I believe no one would deny the captain's judgment. Although it sounds ridiculous, I think this is the only way, otherwise Rayleigh and the others will definitely scold us in prison. Jabba laughed. That's ridiculous, Captain, haha, although there is no evidence, I believe in the captain's hunch. This is a choice that puts our lives on the line. Then when will we act? Other crew members were also infected and agreed. The captain's will, no matter whether it is right or wrong, all you have to do is execute it. As for the consequences, that's beyond their control. And at the same moment. Advertisement Marineford, above the empty square of Marine College. At this moment, several Marine generals and dozens of students were standing quietly. You are the best students in the academy, so we applied to Naval Headquarters to grant you permission to participate in this Impel Down event. An officer with the rank of major looked at the most dominant students in the school and announced loudly, only when you have seen a truly vicious person will you understand what your future enemy will be like. After hearing the officer's words, dozens of students suddenly became excited and started talking. What, are we going to visit Impel Down? Oh my god, is it actually Impel Down, the largest underwater prison in the world? I never dreamed that I would have the chance to go there and visit. Impel Down, is it awesome? Oh my god, the cells there are all for the top pirates and criminals in the world. Do you think they are awesome or not? Long stood among the students, frowning. Listening to the discussions around me, I was very curious about Impel Down. The big prison under the sea, what exactly is it like? It makes my dream more and more difficult. He sighed silently in his heart, and this time, the major officer raised his hand to signal everyone to quiet down. Then, he dropped another extremely bombshell news. Do you know that the person responsible for leading you to visit Impel Down this time is Black Arm Zephyr Vice Admiral? The words fell. The empty square was filled with gasps of cold air. Excitement appeared on the slightly youthful cheeks. How scary, Black Arm Zephyr, that is the legendary Vice Admiral as famous as Buddha's Sengoku and Garp the Fist. The young man with a wretched face curled his lips and said in a shocked tone. Black Arm Zephyr is my idol, but I don't agree with his attitude towards pirates. Gentleness should be left to justice, not pirates. Sakazuki is wearing a hat and has a stern expression. Long stood between the two Vice Admirals, and his cheeks were slapped a few times. He didn't expect that the positioning would be so coincidental every time. Justice does not require approval, just follow your heart. He couldn't help but speak, and then added, this is what Vice Admiral said in his last speech. After hearing this, the surrounding area became quiet, and everyone showed thoughtful expressions. Chapter 42. Railgun, 3 updates, ADVERTISEMENT, where's Rox? Garp asked as he stood on the dock and looked around. He was only wearing a pair of snow-white tight-fitting trousers, and his upper body was bare, revealing his strong and muscular muscles, full of an explosive sense of power. Just standing here gives people the illusion of facing mountains. The surrounding Marine generals and soldiers were all petrified on the spot. It took a while before someone screamed in surprise. Ah, this is Vice Admiral Garp. One soldier pointed at Garp with adoration on his face. What, is this Vice Admiral Garp? Oh my god, it's Garp the Fist from Naval Headquarters. Wait, it's not whose problem, where did Vice Admiral Garp come from? It swam over from the sea, from there, I don't know, I didn't see Vice Admiral Garp's warship. At this time, everyone discovered that Vice Admiral Garp did not follow the warship. In other words, his exclusive warship did not follow him. Brother, where is your warship? Chen stood up from the beach chair and couldn't help but put his forehead on his hands and asked. In fact, the moment he saw Garp swimming over, he vaguely guessed what was going on. Taking a warship is too slow, I swam here by myself halfway. Garp looked disgusted and immediately asked Chen, where is Rox? You haven't come yet, but you were the first to come. Is that so? Didn't I come too early? But depending on the time, it should be almost here. If you swim here, it's just a warm-up. Ha ha ha, Suru should be here soon. Listening to the conversation between the two monkey brothers, the surrounding soldiers and generals took a deep breath. Even Colonel Rick, who knew the two of them very well, still felt greatly shocked. Swim over? OMG. This is the sea area of the New World. Even if you are riding a warship, you must be careful. Even if you don't encounter sea kings, even if you encounter extreme weather, the warship will be overturned at any time. Unexpectedly, Vice Admiral Garp actually swam here by himself. This simply subverts everyone's understanding. Even though he was the only one who arrived, the morale of the soldiers at the school quietly improved a lot. The atmosphere of the war was heavy. Advertisement. The wait is long. But not long after Garp arrived, the surveillance ship 100 miles away sounded the alarm again. An enemy ship appears. An enemy ship appears. The shrill alarm sounded throughout the fortress, and the marine soldiers who were waiting solemnly were shocked. It's finally here, let the scouts come back. Chen lay on the beach chair and gave instructions with a slow wave of his hand. Suddenly, a captain left immediately and conveyed the commander's order. What scout? Next to him, Garp, who was also sitting on the chair, couldn't help but ask curiously. It means monitoring, it's just another name, Chen explained with a slight smile, then slowly sat up straight, turned his head to look at Garp, and said, Brother, this time is serious, are you ready? Hey, you be asterisk 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 D, do you look down on your brother? Garp grinned and looked up towards the end of the coastline. His eyes changed at this moment, as sharp as a beast. It was the sight of a predator with its fangs exposed, which made people feel extremely dangerous. Don't look at the usually carefree guy. Seriously, in the original work, there is a being that even the future Pirate King is afraid of. Moreover, this time is different from the past. The person Rox is attacking is his younger brother Garp. Taking a warship was actually not slow, it was just that he couldn't wait any longer. Report, the scout has returned, a captain came to report. The warships adjust their formation, guard their backs, and guide the enemy's fleet to attack from the front. Chen ordered with a calm face. Yes, captain took the order and left. Seeing Chen's calmness, Garp couldn't help but look sideways. Then when will we take action? He couldn't help but ask. Not urgent. Chen had enough time to say, Brother, this is a war, not a personal duel with force. Then we must give full play to Marine's advantages, instead of being like a pirate and only charging into battle mindlessly. A-hole, do you think I don't know? Garp's face turned red with embarrassment. Because he really only knows how to charge into battle without thinking. As for any strategy, he only needs to sweep with his fists. Of course I know you know. Chen smiled lightly, but had another thought in his mind. My stupid brother, you know it, but never know how to use it. Coming. Advertisement at this time, Chen's pupils shrank and he stared at the end of the sea level. There was a thick mist, and the silhouettes of huge ships appeared indistinctly, rushing towards the wind and waves with overwhelming power. Bring me my pistol. Chen tilted his head and ordered his deputy. Not long after, Colonel Rick came over holding a wooden box. Chen took it and opened it. Lying quietly inside, there was a golden pistol and several special slender bullets. This is something I recently asked the Marine Science Department to build, and it suits my abilities very well. Sensing Garp's doubtful gaze, Chen picked up the pistol and loaded the bullets while explaining softly. Garp frowned, but now was not the time to delve deeper, so he was dubious and focused his attention on the sea ahead. Ah, the first Marine has appeared. It is the Ochaku pirate fleet under Rox. Also, the Whitebeard Pirate fleet, that's Charlotte Linland's pirate fleet. Silver Axe pirate fleet, Golden Lion's pirate fleet. What, after Golden Lion was arrested, did his fleet also come? It seems like we are really taking revenge for the Golden Lion. Wait, that's the Rox pirate fleet. It's Rox pirate ship, it's appeared, it's finally appeared. Accompanied by every wave of exclamations, dozens of huge pirate warships gradually appeared in everyone's sight, breaking through the fog and entering the coast of the G2 branch. It was like a huge wave, pressing towards the fortress. The thousands of soldiers and generals stationed here suddenly felt an invisible pressure falling like a mountain. Oh, is that the pirate flag of Rox? Chen stood at the pier on the coast, raised his sword eyebrows, and pointed at the pirate ship at Rox in the distance and asked. Yes, it's his. Garp raised the corners of his mouth, clenched his fists, and his aura was as strong as the ultimate. That's okay. Chen took out a cigarette, lit it, and slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. Then he pulled out the golden pistol from his waist, then raised it and aimed at the mast flag of the Rox pirate ship. Destroy their faith first. The words fell. Endless electric light burst out from his body, and an extremely strong current formed a huge magnetic field that rotated, releasing a terrifying current hurricane. Electromagnetic gun. Next moment, as Chen's words fell. The golden pistol pulled the trigger and spit out a slender bullet, carrying a terrifying magnetic field current, forming a beam of light and shooting straight out. Chapter 43. Rox. I don't want to lose face. 4 more. Advertisement Rox pirate ship. This huge ship, like a fortress, is as black as ink, and the bow is a crazy smiling face, just like the pirate flag pattern on the mast, expressing Rox madness. On the deck, Rox was sitting on the throne, with his hands on the armrests and his eyes scanning the many powerful men on the deck. Edward Newgate, Charlotte Linland, Silver Axe and Kaido to name a few. Each one is a core member of the pirate group. It is also the highest combat power of the pirate group. Now, everyone is gathered on Rox pirate ship. Oh, ho, 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 Captain, that dreamy island is just after the storm. The burly Kaido stood up and pointed at the extremely terrifying sea area behind the G2 branch. In order to escape for his life, he was in a panic and flew into the island by mistake. And, from the Celestial Dragon's ship, the eternal compass to get there was stolen. And that eternal compass is now in Rock's hand. Hear Kaido's words. Everyone looked in the direction. I saw the sea at the end of the sky, with raging waves, raging hurricanes, and torrential rain, a scene of doomsday. Even the most experienced pirates were surprised by the power of nature. It can be said that any ship entering will be sunk to the bottom of the sea. Without exception, this is true even for Marine's huge battleships. Kaido, are you sure you're not joking? Silver Axe frowned and expressed doubts. If we rush in rashly, we might be overturned by a wave. Then how did the celestial dragons cross this extreme sea? Just looking at it from a distance makes people feel the terrifying power of nature. No, the eternal compass is pointing inwards. I believe Kaido's words, but if we want to get through this storm, we can't do it with our ship. Rox, who was sitting on the throne, said in a deep voice. He held an eternal compass in his hand, and the pointer inside was pointing behind the G2 marine branch in the sea with extreme climate. TCH, how'd I know? Maybe those celestial dragons have a route into them. Kaido grabbed a wine glass, raised his head and drank a few sips, burping and sneering. Advertisement. The crew members were silent. What he and Rox said made sense. As the core members of Rock's pirate, all members are gathered here except Captain John, who is absent. What about these marines? At this time, Whitebeard rarely spoke, his eyes narrowed slightly, staring in the direction of the coast, where he felt a dangerous aura. Not long after, when the ship approached a certain distance, you could see the scene of the marine branch's pier. It's different than expected. The hundreds of turrets erected have a strong deterrent effect. The marine soldiers all have solemn expressions, staring at them pirates, not at all panic or fear, but full of enthusiasm and excitement. Huh? These marines seem different. It's different from the marine I met before who was so scared that he ran away. Haha, after all, that guy is Marine Supernova. The crew members all discussed and expressed very high praise for Chen. But that's all. After all, if you provoke them Rock's pirate, they are destined to be enemies, and if the whole group is dispatched, the opponent will definitely be sunk to the bottom of the sea. Therefore, in the eyes of everyone, Chen is no different from a dead person. Quack, our target is not these marines. It is enough to leave the fleet to block them and block their rescue first. However, Rox waved his hand, raised the corner of his mouth, and sneered. Kaido, you can only rely on you to fly into the Celestial Dragon's Island. Others are ready to follow. As he spoke, he stood up from the throne and walked straight towards Kaido. Hear this. Others looked sideways and saw Kaido's expression change drastically, turning dark in an instant. But just then, in the distance toward the coast, a pale electric light suddenly released, and an extremely terrifying wave immediately entered everyone's perception. Turn around and look. The sea surface was divided into two, and the seawater splashed on both sides. A pale beam of light, carrying the power to destroy everything, shot straight towards the flag on the mast. Too fast. From perceived danger. The next second, the bullet broke through the speed of sound, tore through the air, crossed a distance of several hundred meters, and was already in front of the pirate ship. This guy, doesn't I want to lose face? Advertisement? Rock's pupils shrank, and the anger in his heart suddenly burst out. Boom. He stepped on the deck, stepped on the hard wood, and made a deep pit, and then he jumped up. Armament hockey covers the arms and crosses them directly in front of the body, intercepting the bullet in its path. Boom. Next moment, the two collided and released huge power. In an instant, Rox's face changed dramatically, and his body flew backwards like a cannonball. Then, in the horrified eyes of countless pirates, the huge force shattered the pirate flag on the mast, turning it into debris and floating in the air. Boom. Rox hit the ground with a loud bang. The deck penetrated directly and fell into the cabin. Quiet. The fleet of dozens of pirate ships was eerily silent. No one expected that the attack would come so suddenly. And not even the captain can resist it. Even Whitebeard frowned and stood up slowly, holding the cloud-cutting knife placed aside tightly. Charlotte Linlin looked solemn, holding the Napoleon sword, staring in the direction of the coast, and fell into rare silence. All the crew members stood up one after another, focusing their attention on the direction of the marine fortress. Finally, it landed on the figure holding the golden pistol. No one expected it. Facing the attack of dozens of pirate fleets from Rox, Marine actually dared to take action, which was completely beyond everyone's expectations. Boom. There was a loud noise inside the cabin. Rock's figure leapt up and stood firmly on the bow of the ship, looking at the distant coast with a sharp expression. Next moment, the terrifying Conqueror's hockey was suddenly released, sweeping towards the coast with a power that overwhelmed the world. Chapter 45. Invitation from Rox, 5 updates, advertisement. The pirate fleet and the military port of the branch are only a few hundred meters apart. When Rox leapt over and stood on the bow of the ship, everyone could clearly see it. Everyone was shocked and Marine's momentum trembled. The shadow of the famous Tree of Man. As the pirate overlord of the New World, not even Marine generals dared to provoke him easily. At this time, seeing Rox's true form appearing, thousands of soldiers and generals were shocked in their hearts. Is this New World Overlord Rox? Yes, the person standing behind him is the great pirate under his command. Jesus Christ, that's Whitebeard Edward Newgate. Queen Charlotte Linlin. These people are all Rox pirate monsters. I have to say that the soldiers were shocked when they saw these big pirates in front of them. Even if they were mentally prepared, they would all feel the impact on their souls. Boom, at this moment, hundreds of meters away, an aura as vast as the sea swept directly towards the military fortress. The white mist dispersed along the way, which was very terrifying. In an instant, countless soldiers shook their bodies. Those with weaker willpower immediately foam at the mouth and almost lose consciousness. Oh, you actually blocked it? Chen raised his eyebrows. Unexpectedly, Rox actually blocked his own railgun and seemed to be unscathed. Yes, it looks like that. In fact, the penetrating power of the bullet was extremely strong, and the power of the electromagnetic release had already injured Rox, but he was strong and could suppress this injury. If he really blocked it, he wouldn't fly backwards and tear his pirate flag apart. Don't underestimate this man, Garp next to him warned in a deep voice. He stared solemnly at Rox standing at the bow of the ship, gritted his teeth, and also felt the tremendous pressure this pirate group put on him. Well, I don't underestimate him. After all, he is the overlord of this era. Chen put out the cigarette and immediately his pupils shrank. Advertisement in an instant, Conqueror's haki erupted from his body, roaring like the power of heaven and earth and rushing towards him. Boom! When Chen's Conquerors collided with Rock's Conquerors, a loud sound came from the sky and the earth. The two kings' auras squeezed each other and were bound to crush each other. Between the two of them, the seawater became violent and boiling, the air pressure became extremely chaotic, and the heaven and earth seemed to be cut apart by an invisible force from above. In the eyes of everyone, Rox standing on the pirate ship and Chen standing on the dock are two different worlds. They are colliding and squeezing each other at this moment. The space seems to be distorted, and the scene is extremely terrifying. This guy's Conquerors has become stronger again. Whitebeard's eyes narrowed slightly, his expression solemn to the point of ultimate. He could face everyone in the pirate group, even Rox, calmly. The only one who was cautious in his heart was the young man on the coast. This feeling is exactly the same as Golden Lion, this freak. However, it was Kaido who felt the deepest feeling. His face became very ugly and his eyes were filled with horror. He personally experienced the power of Chen's Conquerors half a year ago. But just how long ago, he actually became stronger again. Moreover, it is so powerful that compared to half a year ago, it seems to be 2 levels of Conqueror's haki. The other crew members felt the power of Chen's Conquerors for the first time, and their faces changed drastically. They did not expect that this Marine Vice Admiral was so powerful that it was beyond imagination. No wonder, the Golden Lion fell into the opponent's hands. So young. I wonder if his monster-like talent will be inherited? A smile appeared on Charlotte Linlin's cheeks, and her eyes were full of greed. After hearing her words, everyone was speechless. At this time, she could even think of mating. She was worthy of being a queen. Boom, the two momentums finally bounced off, and the void was filled with lightning. The white mist and clouds in the sky cracked a huge horizontal groove, and the sunlight fell through it, reflecting the bright golden light of the sea. Boy, was it you who captured Shiki? Rox crossed his arms over his chest, raised his chin slightly, and looked over with a stern look. My name is Monkey D. Chen. Opposite me, Chen put the golden pistol on his waist, then raised his head and said calmly, of course, I don't just want to arrest Shiki. You pirates are all my targets. I didn't have time to look for you, but I didn't expect you to come by yourself. That would save me the trouble of chasing you all over the world. Advertisement, you're all here, why not leave them all to me? Chen put his hands in his trouser pockets and said seriously. The tone was very calm, but the attitude was very solemn. If Haki had said this before the collision, the pirates might have burst into laughter, and even Marine wouldn't believe it. But now, no one dares to look down upon it. Only Rox couldn't help but burst into laughter after hearing these words. The laughter was crazy. Chen, right? After a while, he withdrew his smile, his eyes were blazing, and he shouted in the same serious tone. Do you want to conquer the world with me? The high throne, I can share it with you. These words turned into sound waves, resounding throughout the world and reaching everyone's ears. The quiet world is like a meteorite falling into the lake, setting off huge waves. What? The captain wants to recruit a Marine Vice Admiral. No, this is not recruitment, this is an invitation. Are you kidding me? The captain actually lowered himself to share the world with a Marine Vice Admiral? Hey, can someone tell me if I'm dreaming? What kind of ability does this Chen have? He can actually let the captain share the whole world with him? Conqueror's haki is very strong, but that doesn't mean he is equally strong. Dozens of pirate fleets, the pirates on board were stunned, their jaws almost dropped in shock. Rox, the overlord of the New World, would actually invite a Marine Vice Admiral, which simply subverted everyone's perceptions. Even the Marines, thousands of soldiers and generals on the opposite side had their eyes popping out of their heads. Damn it, these pirates are too arrogant. Who do you think we are, Marine? How could we betray justice? Many people yelled and cursed. While some generals were cursing, they looked extremely worried and glanced at Chen in horror. Chen lowered his head slightly, with a faint smile on his lips. From an outsider's perspective, it seems that he is very interested in this. Chapter 46. Conquest? No, you are destroying the world, one update. Advertisement. Even the legendary Roger Pirates are just recruitment for Rox. Just like the great pirates under his command, they were all recruited crew members. However, when facing a Marine Vice Admiral, he actually used an inviting attitude to show that he was absolutely equal to Chen. This kind of treatment is simply unprecedented. Even Whitebeard, the freak, has never felt it. Not to mention the pirates, everyone on Marine's side had their hearts beating violently, waiting extremely nervously for Lu Chen's response. In Marine, you are just the Vice Admiral, restricted by the world government in the Holy Land, but together with Laozi, when we conquer the world, you and I will be the king of the world. Rox stared at Lu Chen and said in a low tone, a man like you shouldn't obey the orders of the world government and serve those celestial dragons trash. Don't you want to be like us pirates and roam freely in this sea? Lu Chen lowered his eyes slightly and raised a faint smile at the corner of his mouth. But no answer. Rox frowned slightly and continued. Lu Chen, from your rise experience, I believe that you are different from ordinary Marines. If you stay in such a lonely place, you might as well conquer the world with Laozi. His tone was arrogant with a bit of expectation, fell on everyone's ears. The pirates on dozens of pirate fleets gritted their teeth one by one, their whole bodies trembling with excitement, and the blood in their bodies boiled. On the opposite side, thousands of Marine soldiers and generals had sullen faces and were trembling with anger. Many people looked towards Lu Chen, with awe and fear in their eyes. After all, the treatment given by Rox is really great. But just then, Lu Chen raised his head slightly, staring at Rox standing at the bow of the ship, and the smile on his lips became stronger. Well, you just said you wanted to conquer the world, right? After hearing this, the surrounding soldiers felt that the aura on his body had changed slightly. Even Garp turned his head and looked at Ultimate with serious eyes. But as the big brother, he will not disturb Lu Chen's thinking and choices at this time. Even if the final choice will be very serious. Quack, quack, that's right, conquer the world and become the true king of the world. Sensing the change in Lu Chen's breath, Rox raised a smile on his face and laughed. How about it? Let me tell you another secret. Our visit this time is actually not aimed at you. If you accept my invitation, then we can immediately take the first step. Advertisement, the first step to conquer the world. In this regard, he emphasized seriously, but for some reason, when they heard these words, thousands of soldiers on Marine's side became commotion. What? Not for us. How do you explain why we mobilized troops and led the entire regiment to surround our branch? For a time, the expressions of thousands of soldiers showed complex expressions. Ah, you actually think you are conquering the world? But Lu Chen shook his head, took his hands out of his trouser pockets, and said in a slightly high-pitched tone, how do you think you are conquering the world? How many ordinary people have lost their lives because of you? This sea is also because of you pirates, so many people don't dare to go to sea. Hey, Lu Chen, you are a strong man, how can you show mercy to those ants? Rox raised his eyebrows and asked in surprise. As a pirate who has been sailing the sea for decades, he really can't understand the other party's thinking. With Lu Chen's words, even the pirates on the dozens of pirate fleets showed a mocking smile. In their view, do individuals with strong strength still need to take care of the feelings of the weak? Even the few Marine officers and generals had doubts in their hearts. That's why I said, how can you conquer the world? Lu Chen raised his chin, glanced sideways, and said coldly, you are destroying the world and destroying order. Furthermore, in my eyes, the power and wealth obtained at the expense of the weak do not count as the strong. At the last sentence, the tone of his voice suddenly rose, like thunder exploding. Lu Chen lowered his hands and spread his fingers slightly, arcs of electricity jumped on his fingertips, and a powerful aura erupted in his body, forming a terrifying lightning hurricane. In the name of justice, I officially declare war on you Rox pirate. Lu Chen waved his hand violently and shouted, fire. As his words fell, hundreds of huge forts erected on the coast fired one after another at this moment, making loud noises like firecrackers. The dark cannonballs shot straight towards the pirate fleet on the sea ahead in an arc that disappeared again and again. Ha ha ha, you are a monkey man if you don't cry. Mad, brother, why do you speak so nicely? At this moment, Garp next to him finally burst out laughing. Then, he rolled up his sleeves and grabbed a cannonball that had been piled beside him in one hand. Advertisement, since you are going to declare war on the men of our monkey family, let's stop talking so much nonsense. Garp grinned and threw the cannonballs in his hands, turning into streaks of black light and heading straight towards Rox's pirate ship. Several hundred meters apart, the half-hundred-year-old man standing at the bow of the ship, wearing a black cloak and a black captain's hat, with thick dark circles under his eyes, looked extremely gloomy and terrifying at this moment. Rox, Whitebeard next to him glanced sideways, his pupils couldn't help but shrink, and a look of horror appeared on his face. He noticed that the captain's folded hands were trembling slightly. If you didn't look carefully, it would be difficult to find out. It was obviously caused by the shot taken by Lu Chen just now. It is conceivable why Rox showed an invitation gesture. This is because the other party is really too strong. Captain, now is not the time to be angry, Whitebeard shouted in a deep voice. These words, like thunder, suddenly exploded from Rox's heart. He looked up suddenly and found that Marine's cannonball was already approaching. You're really underestimated by Marine. Rox woke up, with madness on his face again, raised his hand and released armament hockey, and the air seemed to form a wall. When the cannonballs came out, they exploded in midair and the sparks were extremely bright. Newgate, you reminded me that now is not the time to waste time. After doing all this, Rox's lips turned cold. He turned to look at Kaido and shouted, Kaido, take us into that island. Everyone else, block this sea area and don't let Marine have any power to leave. Nani? After hearing Rox's words, Kaido's hand holding the wine barrel suddenly froze in midair. Take you? How'd I bring it? He looked confused. But the next moment, when he saw the looks in the eyes of Rocks, Whitebeard and others, he immediately reacted, and his resolute face showed waves of embarrassment and anger. Chapter 47. All the Evil Party Dragon Knights, 2 updates. Advertisement Marine took the lead in taking the initiative, and its powerful firepower instantly covered the pirate fleet, causing bursts of explosions and smoke rising into the sky. War is about to break out, but at this moment, the pirate fleet retreated and left the Marine's artillery range. Moreover, adjust the formation immediately. Dozens of huge pirate fleets, also equipped with powerful firepower, are all aimed at the coast, ready to strike with thunder at any time. What happened? The pirates are escaping. No, the pirates did not escape, but were out of the range of the artillery. What exactly does that mean? Who knows, maybe there are some plans brewing. Damn it, the few warships we have are all guarding us on the left, right and behind. If they don't attack, what does it mean? Will it continue like this? Rocks just said that their target is not Chen Vice Admiral. So, that's why they backed away. The Marine officers looked at the retreating pirate fleet and couldn't help but talk about it. They were all surprised and confused. Out of the range of the artillery, Marine was in a very awkward position. This resulted in that neither the pirates nor the Marines could attack each other at this time unless they both took a step forward. But it is obvious that Marine does not have enough warships to attack. So both sides are just wasting it. The atmosphere is amazing. In the center of the pirate fleet, Rox's pirate ship. Kaido's face turned green and red, and he felt ashamed and angry. Especially the way everyone on the boat looked at him, although they were all indifferent, but for some reason, it gave him the illusion of being ridiculed. Being the center of attention made Kaido feel uncomfortable. Snap. But Rox flew over, put his palm on Kaido's shoulder, and said in a deep voice, "No ship can pass through this storm. Those celestial dragons obviously know the ocean currents in this sea area, so they can sail safely. But we have no time to waste, so we can only abandon the main force and stay." There was no physical coercion or verbal threats. Instead, explain in a very solemn tone. Advertisement. Kaido is tall. Even when he is sitting, he is almost taller than Rox. But when he faced Rox's gaze, he lowered his head slightly, not daring to look at Rox at all, and there was a wave of fear in his heart. The captain has said this, if you still want to refuse. Kaido knows very well that his end will be very miserable. This is Rox's style and method of doing things. I explained to you that this is an ultimatum. If you are not wise at this time, there is only one result, that is, you will be sunk into the bottom of the sea. After all, in the final analysis, Kaido is just a trainee crew member, no matter how high his talent and potential are. If it weren't for Charlotte Linland's care, he wouldn't even be qualified to board the Rock's pirate ship. Compared with captains like Whitebeard, he wouldn't be on the same level at all. This is why, in the days to come, Kaido will be full of endless hostility and fear towards the remnants of the Rock's era. It's so bullying. Laozi regards you as my captain and companions, and you all want to ride on me. Kaido was extremely ashamed and angry. Finally, unwilling to do so, he shouted to the sky, "Then conquer the world." Leaping up from the deck, his burly and strong body transformed into a huge green dragon in midair, hovering high in the sky. Set off. When Rox saw this, a smile appeared on his lips. As he spoke, he was the first to leap up and land on Kaido's dragon head, standing there steadily. "Hey, little Kaido, this is your chance to make a contribution. Ahahaha, come on, let's conquer the world." Well, I keep saying that you won't let me ride, it's a waste of my feelings. Then came Whitebeard and others, who all jumped up and landed on Kaido's huge dragon body. There were dozens of them. "Maid, sit still, don't blame Laozi if you fall down later." Seeing everyone coming up, the huge green dragon roared angrily and immediately rushed towards the sea with extreme weather. This scene shocked everyone. Even the many minions in the pirate fleet did not react for a while. Later, the middle-level cadres spoke up, and these pirates realized that the captain was going to do something shocking. This is the first step to conquer the world. What's that? A dragon? Rox and Whitebeard are all flying into the sky on blue dragons. What are they going to do? Wait a minute, it's not against us Marine, but it's rushing into the extreme climate sea over there. What do these pirates mean? Advertisement. Many Marine soldiers watched the blue dragon soar into the sky, and then without looking at them, they passed by the island of the branch, obviously intending to rush into the depths of the violent sea there. This scene made everyone confused. Even Chen and Garp couldn't help but were slightly stunned. They didn't seem to have expected that Rox would be so decisive and leave without even the slightest hesitation. He is indeed the most influential pirate hero of this era. "Rox, don't go, we haven't collided head-on yet." Standing on the shore of the branch, Garp looked up at the blue dragon flying away and shouted impatiently. However, the other party didn't respond at all and just wanted to leave. On the other hand, Chen, after being surprised, couldn't help but squint his eyes and sneered. "Although I guess your intentions, you can come when you want and leave when you want, I think this is someplace else." He raised his hands suddenly, and arcs of electricity jumped between his fingers, creating a special resonance with the clouds in the sky, and immediately caused a rumbling sound of thunderstorms. Tianwei Prison. The next moment, Chen pulled down with both hands. Following his movements, dense lightning suddenly appeared in the violent sky, interweaving into huge prison-like lightning palms, and suppressed them directly towards Kaido. The huge green dragon looked as small as an ant under lightning's palm. "Captain, I can't bear it." When Kaido saw this, his pupils shrank in fear and he immediately screamed. Keep walking, don't stop. In response, Rocks shouted indifferently. Whitebeard and the others behind them clenched their weapons one after another, and fierce momentum burst out from their bodies, resisting the majestic lightning coming from above their heads. Come on, we haven't done anything together for a long time. Charlotte Linlin laughed. The rest of Silver Axe, Ochaku and others all laughed. Boom, the next moment, there was a loud noise. The terrifying power was released in an instant, and a hole was punched through the clouds, as terrifying as the sky was about to collapse. But the top officials carrying the Rocks pirate indeed broke through the palm of lightning and flew toward the sea with extreme weather. Chapter 48. What does the life and death of celestial dragons have to do with me? 3 updates. Advertisement on the ground. Many marine soldiers opened their mouths wide, and they were all dumbfounded, and they were all petrified on the spot. In everyone's heart, they have long been prepared for a war. But the result was beyond everyone's expectation. Even Garp frowned, his face full of resentment. He had worked so hard to swim here, but before he collided head-on with Rocks, the other party just walked away without looking back. What was going on? Not to mention the others, they all looked confused. In the entire Marine G2 branch, only Chen looked calm from beginning to end. Because of Rock's intention, he had already guessed it. When he discovered it, he felt calm beyond imagination. The life and death of the celestial dragons has nothing to do with him. Swish, at this moment, a figure suddenly shot out from among the marine soldiers. Wearing a marine cloak, he was extremely agile and reached the coast from a distance with just a few ups and downs. Hey, what's going on with you? Are you leaving your combat post without permission? Colonel Rick's expression darkened, he looked at the visitor and shouted. However, the visitor turned a blind eye to this, stared at Chen and Garp, and walked directly over. Presumptuous. Colonel Rick's pupils shrank, he immediately pulled out the saber from his waist and slashed straight at the intruder. At this time of war, ordinary soldiers must not leave their combat positions without orders. And this marine soldier had a cold expression. Even Colonel Rick could clearly feel that there was some kind of deep murderous intent in him. So he took action decisively, and the sword fell directly, but what was shocking was that the sword broke and made a crisp sound of gold. One of the Marine 6 styles, iron body. Colonel Rick's pupils shrank and he said solemnly, no, use iron body while walking. The 6 postures have been practiced to the point of perfection. The movement here attracted the attention of everyone around, and they all turned their heads to look over. Even Garp couldn't help but look back. The visitor was a middle-aged man, wearing the clothes of an ordinary soldier, but his every move was full of a downward gaze, and his whole body exuded a heart-stopping aura of indifference. CP. Garp frowned and asked. After hearing this, the surrounding marine officers, including Colonel Rick, reacted one after another. No wonder this man's appearance made people feel uncomfortable. Advertisement: he seems to be a machine without emotions, but turns out to be a spy designed to kill people and obtain information. Only a strong person like Garp can tell. Yes, I am Kariku from the CP0 spy agency. The man came closer, with a hint of panic on his indifferent face. It was obvious that he was very nervous at this time. I now order the entire army of your branch to take the initiative and pursue Rocks closely. Kariku ordered in a deep voice. The words fell. The coast became quiet, and the soldiers looked at each other without moving. And Garp stared at him, not moving. It was even said that Chen Vice Admiral, the commander-in-chief of the branch, turned his back directly to him and did not look back at all. Damn it, didn't you hear that? I ordered your branch to pursue Rocks with all our troops immediately. Feeling Marine's malice, Kariku growled gloomily, staring at Chen's back with terrifying eyes. Once upon a time, as a CP0 spy who only took orders from the Celestial Dragons, he had the right to kill first and tell later. But now, not even a Vice Admiral gives him any face. Kariku was heartbroken because Chen ignored him completely and treated him as transparent. Garp, on the other hand, looked at him, but his eyes were confused, and he raised his hand to pick his nose, as if he was watching a joke in response to his threatening tone. Chen Vice Admiral. Kariku almost collapsed and couldn't help shouting. Why? But at this moment, Chen finally answered him, turned around slowly, and looked at Kariku with indifferent eyes. You can tell by his physical fitness, it's exactly like the training method of a CP spy. I request the entire G2 branch to pursue Rocks. Kariku lowered his head, then turned to look at the sky. As he watched, the huge green dragon gradually became smaller in his sight, and his face was filled with anxiety and fear. This appearance made everyone puzzled, but Chen probably understood it, so he didn't act in a hurry. Colonel Rick. He did not answer the other party. Instead, he turned to look at Colonel Rick and asked, how is the situation in the branch now? Report to Vice Admiral, the exit has been completely blocked by the pirate fleet. If we break through forcefully, we will pay a heavy price. Although Colonel Rick was confused, Chen's order was carried out immediately. Even if we can break through forcefully, the direction in which Rocks escaped is not suitable for warship pursuit. With our existing weapons and equipment, we cannot penetrate that natural barrier. Advertisement. Hearing this, the surrounding soldiers nodded. Although the expected war did not break out, the current situation of the branch is not much better. Instead, it is in an embarrassing situation. But this CP0 had a look of horror on his face, especially looking at the direction in which the green dragon was flying away, almost disappearing from sight. Tell me, in front of me, you should know that with the identity of the CP organization, you are not qualified to order me. Chen took out a pack of cigarettes, held one in his mouth, lit it with an electric light, and slowly exhaled a puff of smoke. Then he looked at Kariku and smiled. I let you lurk in the branch all the time, which is already considered a kindness. The previous sentence only caused Kariku's expression to change drastically. But the last sentence directly broke his psychological defense. His pupils suddenly shrank and his face turned pale. Unexpectedly, when he disguised himself as a soldier and mingled with the branch, he was discovered by the other party a long time ago and knew his identity. Doesn't it mean that the other party also knew the secrets of that sea area? When he thought of this, Kariku felt extremely shocked. Especially the playful look in Lu Chen's eyes. In front of him, she looked like a naked girl with no secrets at all. However, now is not the time for Kariku to think. Because at the end of the sky, the huge blue dragon transformed by Kaido has already carried rocks and other villains into the stormy extreme sea. It will only take a moment to disappear from everyone's sight. Now that you already know, I won't hide it anymore. It's possible that Rocks already knows the coordinates of the Celestial Dragon's Valley of the Gods. And as long as we pass through this stormy sea, we can withstand the dream island that the Celestial Dragons have been telling us about. There are all the secrets of the descendants of the Creator God. If evil parties like Rocks are allowed to reach the Valley of Gods, it will have a world-shaking impact, so I implore Vice Admiral Lu Chen to lead all the marine officers of the G2 branch to stop Rock's evil party. At the end of the sentence, Kariku almost roared out, tears streaming down his face. Exposing the secret of the Celestial Dragons, no matter what the outcome is, there must be only one end waiting for him. That is death. However, Lu Chen shook his head directly and said, no. It was just one word, but it immediately shocked Kariku and the surrounding soldiers. But Celestial Dragons? Kariku thought he heard wrongly and stammered. Before he could finish speaking, Lu Chen interrupted him again and said seriously. I said, no, the branch's current situation makes it impossible to lead a large-scale army out, nor can it penetrate that storm. He sounded very firm and said, I am now responsible for everyone in the G2 branch. As for the Celestial Dragons, life or death has nothing to do with me. Chapter 49. Crane Vice Admiral arrives, 4 updates. Advertisement I am now responsible for everyone in the G2 branch. As for the Celestial Dragons, life and death have nothing to do with me. When this sentence rings out, for some reason, the surrounding soldiers, including Colonel Rick, suddenly felt their blood surge up, and they had the urge to die for their confidence. Even Kariku, the CP spy, was shocked. He never expected that someone would be so treacherous to the Celestial Dragons for the sake of these weaklings, which simply subverted his cognition. You know, Celestial Dragons are taboo in this world. But Lu Chen violated the taboo openly at this time. The shock was so shocking that everyone's heart could not help but beat hard several times. Ha ha ha. But at this moment, Garp next to him burst out laughing, raised his hand and patted Lu Chen on the shoulder, and said with a smile. As expected of a man from our monkey family, those Celestial Dragons trash, don't care what they do. After he finished speaking, he grinned, his eyes blazing and bright, and said in a deep voice. But if there is an island there, it can be used as a battlefield. Hear this. Everyone is still a little confused, but as the younger brother of the monkey family, Lu Chen frowned slightly and said at a loss of whether to laugh or cry. Brother, don't you think so? Well, this is a rare opportunity. Rock's fleet remains here. Now is the best chance to annihilate their core cadres. Garp nodded vigorously, then raised his hand to grab the clothes that he had just worn on the boat, and tore them off directly, revealing the muscles that were strong like a blue dragon. He smiled like a beast seeing its prey, and said in a deep voice, leave it to me here, you. After finishing speaking, without waiting for Lu Chen to respond, he turned around and leapt towards the sea. After falling into the seawater, he swam suddenly and chased Rocks at a high speed. He was like a sharp knife, cutting the sea directly, and the seawater splashed on both sides. The speed was as fast as a swordfish passing by. This scene shocked everyone. Even the pirate fleet in the distance felt incredible. Who is that guy? Looks like Marine Vice Admiral Garp the Fist. I remember, he and this Lu Chen are brothers. Holy shit, is this going to kill himself? Is he going to swim through that storm? Are you kidding? Not even a warship can get through, let alone a flesh and blood body? Ha ha ha, Marine is so stupid, TCH, even if he manages to get through this storm, he will be killed by the captain and the others. I didn't expect that Marine's stupidity is beyond my imagination. Advertisement. The pirates were shocked from the beginning to laughing at the end, and burst into laughter as they looked at the figure struggling to swim. Even on the Marine side, all the soldiers were stunned. Lu Chen Vice Admiral. Colonel Rick couldn't help but speak, wanting Lu Chen Vice Admiral to stop Vice Admiral Garp. After all, anyone could see that extreme storm was completely impenetrable without proper ocean current navigation. Not to mention, Vice Admiral Garp is just a swim away. OMG. Many soldiers were desperate. When they heard Colonel Rick's words, they all turned to look at Lu Chen, thinking that Lu Chen would stop Vice Admiral Garp. However, it is shocking. Lu Chen just shook his head with a wry smile on his face. My stupid brother, you are still so reckless. After saying that, it's gone. Don't worry, the men in our monkey family are not as weak as you think. Even the mighty storms of nature can't do anything to me, my brother. Lu Chen held a cigarette in his mouth and smiled lightly. As soon as these words came out, all the surrounding soldiers, including the CP spy Kariku, opened their mouths wide and their jaws almost dropped to the ground. A mere storm? If they hadn't felt the terror of that power, they would have been infected by Lu Chen's words. Everyone felt incredible. Lu Chen Vice Admiral, even if Vice Admiral Garp can reach the Dream Island, How can he face the evil gang of rocks alone? At this time, the CP spy Kurikal asked with an ugly expression, celestial dragons will still be in danger. Hey, are you teaching me how to do something? Before Kaliku could finish speaking, Chen tilted his head slightly, his pupils shrank suddenly, and the terrifying conquerors, like a suppressed sky, made the CP spy lose consciousness and fainted in an instant. Call. Exhaling a puff of smoke, Chen frowned slightly and said calmly, as I said just now, I am now responsible for the thousands of soldiers in the branch. He looked at Garp's figure disappearing into the storm, his eyes shining with a strange light. If you say you're not worried, that's a lie. But that's how the men of the monkey family are. They know that there is danger ahead, but for the sake of the blood in their hearts, they have to rush forward even if their heads are broken. Of course, the original Garp in the future cannot be considered a passing marine. However, this future is not certain. Advertisement. The sound of rapid footsteps came from the direction of the fortress. A captain ran over, his expression full of unspeakable joy. Reporting to Chen, Vice Admiral he called. She said that she has merged with Vice Admiral Garp's warship. She is just waiting for Chen, Vice Admiral's instructions whether to respond from the outside or break through the blockade and come in. Captain saluted Chen with excitement on his face. Hearing this, the surrounding soldiers all showed smiles and expressions of surprise. Finally, I heard another good news. Colonel Rick, please inform Naval Headquarters of whoever just said this. Chen nodded and immediately issued the order. Yes. Colonel Rick was shocked and immediately turned around and left, asking Ao Bing to report the incident related to Celestial Dragons to Naval Headquarters for processing. As for Sister Suru, with the warships she is equipped with, combined with our warships, we should be able to break through from weak points. But we can't stop in the direction of our coast. When we break through, fire artillery to attract the attention of the pirate fleet. Don't let these scum leave. Chen gave the order calmly. Yes. The captain and all the soldiers took orders and left. The next moment, the entire military fortress of the branch was mobilized in an instant, developing huge war potential. In naval battles and different land battles, individual abilities alone cannot change the outcome of large-scale naval battles too much, unless Admiral Aokiji has the frozen fruit ability of the future, which can turn naval battles into land battles. Previously, the number of warships was too small to break through the naval blockade. But now, with the arrival of Crane Vice Admiral, everything is different. Less than 10 minutes. The three warships led by Crane Vice Admiral and Brother Garp's dog-headed warship broke through the pirate fleet blockade and entered the military port of the G2 branch. Today's Marines' firepower is not as good as that of the pirates, but they can still maintain a stalemate for a while. Where's Garp? The heroic Vice Admiral. He jumped down from the warship, with flowing blue hair, and landed steadily next to Chen and asked. Went to the Valley of the Gods. Oh, that's the secret dream island of celestial dragons. Chen said in a casual tone. Hearing this, Vice Admiral his pretty face changed drastically, and his beautiful eyes widened with a completely incredible expression. I don't feel at ease if I chase him alone. At this time, Chen turned around, looked directly into Suru's dark blue pupils, and said with a wry smile. So I'm leaving it to you. Chapter 50. The vicious incident that alarmed I am and the 5 elders, 5 updates. Advertisement. Naval Headquarters, Office, Sengoku, all the high-end combat forces that can be dispatched have been dispatched, and you and I are the only ones left. Empty. Admiral Headache Support. The incident at the G2 branch had not yet settled, and he did not dare to relax for a moment, still waiting for the phone bug to send back information. Don't worry, with Garp and Suru going, rocks won't dare to go too far. Sengoku sat on the sofa and said calmly, poor. But at this moment, the phone on the table suddenly rang. Sora Admiral's expression changed and he picked it up immediately. Report to the headquarters. The situation in the G2 branch has changed. Chen Vice Admiral asked me to report it. The phone bug takes the panicked form of Colonel Rick. When Admiral and Sengoku saw this, their hearts trembled. Could it be that Rocks was going to launch a strong attack? They hoped that nothing would happen to the G2 branch. Even if they attack by force, they will have to remain in a stalemate for a while, waiting for other rescue warships to arrive. To know. The entire naval headquarters, as well as the direction of New World, all the forces that can be mobilized have been mobilized by Admiral to the G2 branch, but it will take some time to get there. Tell Chen Vice Admiral that as long as he delays for some time, support will be available at any time. Kong Admiral's voice was very heavy, but before he could finish speaking, Colonel Rick interrupted directly without caring about politeness. His voice was trembling. You can imagine how frightened he was inside. Song Admiral, there is a stalemate between the branch and the pirate fleet now. The matter Chen Vice Admiral asked me to report is related to the Celestial Dragons. Less than 10 minutes. Empty Admiral used an unimaginable speed to arrive at the World Government Building in Marijoy from Naval Headquarters Marineford, and walked directly towards the 5 Elders' room. Open the door. The current Marine Marshal, Marshal Black Panther, and the 5 Elders who are in charge of world government, the world's most powerful people, have been waiting for a long time. Seeing the arrival of Sora Admiral, the usually calm big shots stood up one after another. Is the information you just mentioned true? Marshal Black Panther asked with a solemn face. Advertisement, I don't know, but I think it's almost the same. Otherwise, why would Rocks and other evil gangs rush into that storm? Kong Admiral shook his head and said in a deep voice. When the 5 Elders heard what the two said, their expressions had already changed. One of them directly ordered, Kong, You set off immediately, led 10 warships docked in the Holy Land, and go to the Stormy Sea as quickly as possible. Hearing this, Sora Admiral was slightly startled. However, with a nod from the Black Panther Marshal, he immediately took the order and turned around to leave. Marshal Black Panther, please leave first. We need to analyze the authenticity and impact of this incident. After Admiral left, the 5 elders directly issued an eviction order. In this regard, the Black Panther Marshal said nothing, stood up directly, and followed Sora Admiral's back away. The room fell silent. The 5 people looked at each other and saw the shock and horror in each other's eyes. I need to ask Master I Am for instructions. Almost unanimously, all 5 elders blurted out the words. This incident has an unprecedented impact, and it can be said to be the first time in history. The rights of the 5 of them alone cannot determine the direction of events. Since Rox dares to break into that storm, it proves that the other party has mastered the coordinates of the Valley of Gods. If the other party succeeds, the world will definitely fall into turmoil and chaos. Left the world government building. The 5 elders lowered their heads slightly and hurriedly walked into Pangu City and arrived at a huge palace. They knelt respectfully under the steps of the throne, with their foreheads on the ground, full of unbearable humility and awe. You know, they are the people with the highest authority in the world according to the outside world. But now his noble head is lowered, and his posture shows humility and insignificance. Faintly visible, on the high throne at the top, a vague figure sat, emitting an aura that would frighten all living beings. I beg you, Lord I Am, for instructions. The 5 elders all spoke respectfully. After finishing speaking, he waited quietly for I Am, who was sitting on the throne, to answer. The palace was quiet, and the invisible pressure caused the 5 elders to break out in cold sweat on their foreheads. Their hearts were pounding, and they were anxiously waiting for the Supreme Being's response. The Valley of Gods is known to Rox, and the celestial dragons there are in danger. As the supreme ruler of the world government, he also feels endless fear. Expose everything to the world and destroy all traces of it. Advertisement just when the 5 elders were almost exhausted from waiting. Above the throne, a cold and emotionless word came slowly. Can't tell the difference between male and female at all. But the 5 elders secretly breathed a sigh of relief and quickly shouted respectfully. I will obey your orders. After finishing speaking, when they raised their heads, they found that the figure on the throne had disappeared at some point. Back to the world government building. The 5 elders first sent the sailing shortcut to the Valley of the Gods to the departing admiral, which is an undersea tunnel that connects the world. Save the celestial dragons and destroy everything on that island. Yes. Sora Admiral replied in a deep voice. After hanging up the phone bug, 5 elders once again used the powerful propaganda machine of the world government to directly expose to the world the location of the Valley of the Gods. Including the coordinates and the ocean currents entering there, they are all clearly marked. This is to allow everyone in the world to enter there at any time, and all the secrets of the Valley of Gods will no longer be secrets from now on. I have to say that even the 5 elders couldn't help but gasp at this decision. Too cruel. It was completely unexpected that a secret that had been hidden for hundreds of years would be abandoned by Lord I Am. This decisive decision of a strong man to cut off his wrist was extremely shocking to the 5 elders who knew the secret. However, their notification had not yet been sent out. Morgan's news agency's World Economic Daily published a piece of newspaper content that shocked the entire world. Rox leads the entire team to the Valley of the Gods, preparing to publicly execute the celestial dragons, close double-angle bracket. Under the huge title, it is a photo of Rox standing on top of Xinglong, overlooking a dreamlike and beautiful island. The aura of looking down on the world makes even the photo shocking. When this newspaper was distributed, the whole world seemed to become dead in an instant. Immediately afterwards, a furious storm swept across the world in an instant. Whether it was pirates, gangsters, marines, world government, or the 5 elders, all of them were shocked and breathless. The secret of the Valley of the Gods was completely exposed to the whole world at this moment.